And heroes have returned to Dover. The president, Secretary Hegseth, as well as the Army Secretary Dan Driscoll were there to greet them, as well as General Dan Kane. They spent about 3 hours with the family members. That's what they do before we see this ceremony and the flag-draped caskets come out of the back of that plane. They spend time individually with those family members.
Fox's Jennifer Griffin. The president is now in Georgia, where moments ago he spoke again to the family of First Lieutenant Tyler Feehan.
We'll carry Tyler's memory in our hearts forever, and I just want to thank you. It's an honor to have you here today. Please.
The fallen soldier lived in the area. The president giving loved ones a ride on Air Force One from Dover to that event at a Georgia high school. Tropical storm Bertha just making landfall in the southern tip of Louisiana, St. Bernard Parish, about 40 miles east of New Orleans, after closing beaches from the Florida Panhandle to Mississippi. On Wall Street, a mixed finish, the Dow up 24 points. America's listening to Fox News.
Onyx, I keep having stomach issues. Please make me a doctor's appointment.
Okay. Are you suffering from diarrhea, bloating, gas, or oily stools? If so, you may want to ask your doctor if it could actually be a problem with your pancreas, called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI.
My pancreas? How is EPI treated?
A prescription medicine like Creon, pancrelipase, is used to treat people who can't digest food normally because their pancreas doesn't make enough enzymes. Creon is the #1 prescribed treatment for EPI.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you are allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor, and always with food. Do not chew capsules, as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon. You can learn more at 1-800-633-9110.
Before your appointment, visit creoninfo.com. That's CREON info.com.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
No complaints with our weather this afternoon. Sunny, less humid, beautiful temperatures. 84 for the high, a little bit below average. We will take it tonight. Partly cloudy. What an amazing evening coming up with temperatures dropping back into the 70s. 64 for the overnight low. Then on Thursday, sunny and nice. 82 degrees for the high Thursday afternoon. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Well, Fred, it's you and me today. It's me and the Hall of Famer, right?
How about old Fred Bottenheimer over there, ladies and gentlemen?
Sue is off for a few days, and then two-thirds of Annie's show called in sick today, so Ethan had to be called into service for the previous show. So he's already worn out, and he was supposed to do Sue's News today, and he just remembered that. So that's going to be quality, I can tell. No, he will be fine, but he's working a little extra today, and we're scrambling because of the lack of bodies, right, Fred? But we got a good show coming up here this afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
Ben Ferguson, nationally syndicated radio show host, is going to be with us. We'll talk some of the politics of the day. Mike Gonzalez, this is great because I'm going to start with some of this here this afternoon as well. You know, we aired yesterday some of the testimony from the director of the Smithsonian National Museum of American History, Anthea Hertug is her name. And we even had one of our local members of Congress, Mary Miller, from over in Illinois, asked some pretty good pressing questions. And Mike actually testified at this hearing both yesterday and today. And he's been a guy, and Fred, you know this because you contact Mr. Gonzalez. He's with the Heritage Institute, but he's really been on top of the Smithsonian stuff. He'll tell you he's been covering it for 10 years, you know, some of the woke stuff that's been coming out. But just to offer people an example. And now I will say this because I predicted yesterday, every once in a while, Fred, I'm wrong. It happens once or twice a year, something like that. But I did predict that hearing would not get a lot of legacy coverage. And to my surprise, the New York Times wrote about it. Washington Post wrote about it. They even quoted, the New York Times quoted Mike, okay? So there is coverage. Now, most of what their coverage is about is still tilted in one direction. But look, the bottom line here is you have an institution that is supposed to show visitors, you know, the good, the bad, the ugly about the country. That's fine, but it's really the bad and the ugly that gets emphasized, not the good. And it's weighted in a far, far different direction. And you'll hear examples of this when you hear some of the testimony from yesterday and from today. And it's just kind of utterly ridiculous when you hear. I played some of what Brandon Gill said yesterday, because what they've done is they've kind of put this woman into a corner. They've asked her very specific questions about some of the exhibits that have run through. Now, some of them were temporary exhibits. Have you been to that museum, Fred?
Yeah, I have.
So I've never been to any of. I feel bad because every time I go to D.C., I was always doing shows out there, and I never got to go to the museums. I'd love to do that. I think I've mentioned that before. I'd like to take my daughter there at some point. But when you hear, I mean, some of the things that they're exposing, and see, here's where the media coverage, and my criticism is still something that applies, because they covered this and they put the framework of the arguments in the print coverage. I'll just use the New York Times as an example, but they're not putting the examples that Nancy Mace, and Nancy's not my favorite, Mary Miller's not my favorite, but they both made some great points at these hearings the last couple of days. Here's Congresswoman Mace.
When you are dressing men up as women, drag queens, you're putting this kind of crap in front of kids, sexualizes them, and makes them more vulnerable to people that want to rape them or abuse them.
Girlhood, It's Complicated was not an exhibit designed for children.
Do you believe that men can become women?
All right, so just to be clear here, that was the exhibit was Girlhood is Complicated, right? Apparently it wasn't for girls, though. It wasn't for kids. That's what she's saying.
Ma'am, as the director of the museum, that's not relevant in this case.
It's very relevant. You've got men dressed up as women, and you have them on displays in front of kids. Do you think men can become women, yes or no? What is a woman?
We strive to represent and not categorize.
Come on. They can't give a definition for what a woman is. So in the New York Times piece, you'd think they'd mention that, right? Well, of course, they skip over that. Here's Mary Miller. She's good on this stuff here. If I can get it to go.
Actually welcomed children to an exhibit with sexually explicit material. And so
correct.
Along
that
those
exhibit,
lines, can you tell us what a
Girlhood.
crotch harness is? We brought a picture. Tell the audience what a crotch harness is.
Okay, yeah, so she's trying to, she literally has, and they do this during these hearings, like some whiteboards up there, and they're showing the pictures that she is referring to in this exhibit. Who cares if it was a temporary exhibit? And by the way, I don't even care if kids weren't the audience for this. It's outrageous.
So, ma'am, if I may answer your question about Girlhood, It's Complicated, and the questions that you had.
No, I'm moving on. What is a crotch harness? You chose to make a display of it.
Oh, my God.
Girlhood, It's Complicated was designed to help
you
celebrate
approved
the
the
centennial.
display of a crotch harness in a public museum. You chose to display the fetish attire of a very small subset of Americans with weird sexual proclivities, and you welcome children to these exhibits.
So,
Millions of
ma'am, if I
American
can
families
answer your
and
question?
school children visit your taxpayer-funded museum every year, coming to learn about the nation's history. They deserve a straightforward explanation for why they are being exposed to this kind of garbage.
So I would say, to Congresswoman Miller's credit, that is like full stop. You don't even need to argue this anymore. That soundbite encapsulates exactly what this argument is about. It's utterly ridiculous. And if the New York Times or the Washington Post or any of these, networks were fair, they would offer up examples of that testimony, but they don't want to do that. And when Mike joins us at the bottom of the hour, I'll play you the cut from last night, because Abby Phillips on with Scott Jennings, and she says something ridiculous. And I think Jennings exerted a lot of patience in his response about all this stuff at the Smithsonian. All right, so here's Tim Burchett. Now, this audio, because this stuff's been going kind of fast and furious the last couple of days. I found this yesterday. We only aired a part of it, but this goes on a little longer. But really, I think Burchett, and he's from Tennessee, does a great job here with Anthea Hartig.
Gender and sexuality are highlighted by your museum. The poster behind me shows an exhibit called Entertainment Nation on display now. Do you think these exhibits behind me are appropriate for children?
So this is not Girlhood, It's Complicated. This is another exhibit, right?
So I recognize some of the images from Entertainment Nation and from, I think, some other sources. But let me, tell you what I think is most important about...
Ma'am,
yes.
You have pictures of bondage. You have some overtly sexual things up there. You have transgendered folks. I assume that's what they are. And some, I don't care who it is. I don't care who it is. It's still not a fan, I can tell you that. But in another exhibit, a 6-year-old girl asked why she doesn't have male genitalia. Do you really think that content is appropriate for children?
Again, it's not appropriate for anyone, okay? Why is that in any way, shape, or form appropriate for our National History Museum? You know, when I go to Las Vegas, now I will say I've never been there to this, but Fred, honest to God, there's like this, one of the, I can't remember what it was. It's right off the strip, but basically it's like a sex museum. And there's like a big sign out there, right? Maybe I should have gone in at some point. I've never gone in. But that's where this stuff is appropriate, not in the Smithsonian, right?
I mean, do you think little girls have penises? I mean, let's get to the basics of this. Do you think that's appropriate?
So, sir, I believe the exhibition and project you're referring to is Girlhood, It's Complicated, which was a temporary exhibit in our museum that closed, I believe, in 2020.
Ma'am, I didn't ask you that. I asked you, do you think, is it appropriate?
So in that exhibit, sir, with permission of the author, we shared a 13-year-old's diary, which I believe is what you're discussing. And in that diary, they wrote about sleepovers and Latin class and math exams.
Ma'am, do you think...
And chest binders.
Appropriate. I appreciate this. We're limited on time, ma'am. Do you think that's appropriate? Do you think that is appropriate for a child to see? Yes or no?
I understand your question, sir. But
no, you don't. You're not answering. You're just running on, ma'am, and I appreciate your hospitality, but the reality is you are not answering the question.
He's not wrong there.
By taxpayers, and the taxpayers would like to know, is that appropriate?
So, sir, Girlhood, It's Complicated was not designed for children. It had a label in the beginning of the exhibition that shared with parents about some of the topics that would be covered. And we do that with exhibitions that we think kind of need that help. So parents then can come and
all right. Well,
look
thank
at
you, ma'am.
objects.
I understand you're not going to answer it. I'm going to run
look,
out.
the alphabet mafia and chest binders and all this nonsense has no purpose in the Smithsonian. It's utterly ridiculous, and this is what these Democrats want to argue for. God bless them.
It kind of reminds me of how we would hear a few months ago parents at school board meetings coming in and reading from the books that the kids have in their libraries. And the school board say, no, stop, you can't read that.
It is like that. And, you know, they're embarrassed that it's being read publicly, but it's in their, libraries, or it's in their curriculum, or in this case, it's in their displays. One of the biggest stories in the country right now, I love this story so much, is about Sophie Cunningham. And, some of us have known about Sophie Cunningham for a long time because she's from Columbia, Missouri. She went and played for Mizzou. She was a rock star, all-star, at Mizzou. Then she goes to the WNBA and becomes a star. Now she's on a different planet because she's kind of solidifying her brand. And she's come out and really, one of the questions that I've asked this with Jen Say, who's going to be with us a little bit later, this afternoon. She's the founder and CEO of XXXY Athletics. Where is that number one A-list athlete in professional sports, women's professional sports, who's going to come out and say this stuff with biological men playing against women is nonsense? Well, Sophie Cunningham has done this. ESPN did a great profile of her, and that portion of the profile is a very, very small part. But, of course, that's what people are focusing in on, and now she's transphobic. But we're going to cover that from a variety of perspectives rather this afternoon, a little bit later in the show, like I mentioned, with Jen Say. So we're off and running here. Ben Ferguson coming up next. Mike Gonzalez from Heritage, who testified the last couple of days at that Smithsonian hearing on Capitol Hill, is going to join us at 3:30.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
All right, got some delays out there. It's starting to fill in on 64 on your westbound side from Kings Highway over to Clayton or Big Bend area, and then again from Lindbergh to 270, eastbound side from Mason over to 270, and then around 170. 170 southbound starting to fill in, approaching 64. The northbound side looks okay. 44 is in decent shape. 270 southbound, some delays past 64, and then again past Manchester. This report is sponsored by Barron Mere Glass and Door. We would like to congratulate Barron Mere Glass and Door on their 50-year anniversary. You don't stay in business that long by not supplying quality products with outstanding service. The key is their experienced staff. Contact Barron Mere Glass and Door today and let them show you why 50 years is just a start. I'm Trent Erickson with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
If you're considering an annuity as part of your retirement plan, we need to talk.
Hi, I'm Bob Stockdale, Senior Vice President Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money Saturday mornings at 11 on 97.1 FM Talk. Annuities can be a useful tool for some retirement investors, but not all annuities are created equal. Every week, we meet clients who own complex annuities that don't suit their needs and, in some cases, actively undermine their retirement plan. Before you purchase an annuity, get a second opinion from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Requesting a consultation is free of charge. To request a free consultation, contact us at clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member NYSE and SIPC.
Some things can steal your sunshine. Ugh, I just got my hair done.
Sorry, the cooler's broken. Anyone see my flip-flops? Anyone?
But COVID-19 can steal a lot more.
I just took a COVID test. Ugh.
Prescription medications for COVID exist. If you test positive this summer, ask your doctor if they're right for you. Visit PfizerForAll.com/COVID-19 to learn more. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Lots of places can expose you to identity theft.
Oh no.
That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity, which is way more than anyone can do on their own. If we find anything suspicious, like new loans or changes to your financial accounts, we alert you right away, all through text, phone, email, or the LifeLock app. Get the alerts that could make all the difference. Save up to 30% with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Gentlemen, Mark Cox here. When's the last time you actually felt like yourself? Victory Men's Health specializes in hormone optimization, sexual health, weight loss, and longevity. It's built for everyday men who just want to feel better and perform their best. They already have offices in Town and Country, Sunset Hills, O'Fallon, Missouri, and O'Fallon, Illinois. They're about to open a new location in Glen Carbon very soon. It's a higher standard of care just waiting for you. Learn more at victorymenshealth.com.
License number GL250000615.
Hey, Dad, what causes drains to clog?
Grease, hair, soap scum, and tree roots.
Tree roots?
This town has old pipes and big trees. They find each other.
They grow inside pipes?
They bust into pipes.
Whoa.
Once they're in, the water stops flowing.
Can we fix it?
The big green grasser machine can fix any clog.
Green is always grasser at grasserhomeservices.com.
You're listening to The Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
All right, we're going to do a little switcheroo here with guests because Ben Ferguson, who is scheduled to join us, I hope he still can this hour, but he is on the Fox set right now because he's a big shot, and he might get some exposure there. But I mentioned Mike Gonzalez, who is our friend, senior fellow at the Heritage Foundation. He's been a guest before on this issue of the Smithsonian because he's been really highlighting this. He's been there on Capitol Hill testifying for the last couple of days at a very hot hearing. Mike Gonzalez, how are you this afternoon?
I'm tired, but you know what? As you say, bloody but unbound. But what's the phrase? I forget. Bloody but unbowed. Bloody
There it
but
is.
unbound. I'm tired. Yes.
Well, you and I have talked about this before, and, after I heard some of this hearing yesterday, especially with Tim Burchett and Brandon Gill, and then we even have one of our local folks, Mary Miller from over in Illinois, but you testified at this hearing, didn't you?
I testified yesterday at the Doge subcommittee, and I testified today at the Committee on House Administration.
And what was your testimony like with the Democrats in particular? Because you're making the case, I think that Republicans are appropriately, that some of this stuff that has been exposed in the Smithsonian is outrageously inappropriate for a mass audience, is tilted in one direction when it comes to, U.S. history. You've been trying to expose this. We've talked about it. So was that what you focused on today?
Yeah, no, I've been writing about this for 10 years at least. Today we had a back and forth. Julie Johnson, Representative Julie Johnson of Texas. Boy, she doesn't like me. She said that she said that I was the most offensive person to have come to Congress ever.
Wow, you got to wear that as a badge of honor.
Yeah. Well, Representative Griffith of Virginia gave me the opportunity to to respond because she was so out of control. And actually, I decided to take the high ground, which is not normal for me. I just said that I agreed with her that history is not meant to fit a political narrative, but that is what the leadership of the Smithsonian is doing now. Look, Mark, the leadership of the Smithsonian has to go. They have to be fired. They have hijacked what should be a national treasure. They have hijacked an institution that belongs to you, all of you listeners, to me, to everyone, to the whole country, for their own purposes, to push a political agenda. It is very clear. The White House's Domestic Policy Council published a report, a very good report. Everybody should go to whitehouse.org and look it up. It's called Saving America's Story. It's 162 pages. It's got 522 endnotes. It makes a very strong case that this leadership is out of control. So the Congress needs to work with the Board of Regents. They need to clean out house. They need to dismiss the entire leadership, and I mean the heads of all each museums, and Lonnie Bunch especially, the Secretary of the Smithsonian, and they need to deauthorize the Latino Museum, which is going to be awful. Look, only if foolish people pay $1.1 billion a year for their own cultural erasure. The American people are not a foolish people. They just need to be told what's going on.
So what's unbelievable is, and you know this better than anyone because you've been writing it for so long, some of this stuff is just so obviously outrageous and doesn't belong in the Smithsonian. But every time, Mike, I read about this in the Washington Post, the New York Times, of course, they tilt it in the complete opposite direction. Let me give you a real-life example of this even on CNN last night. So my friend Scott Jennings is on with Abby Phillip. I thought Scott had a great answer here.
The administration has used these so-called, woke policies of the 2020 era to justify what they are doing in order to try to rewrite what is in the museums. I don't understand why they are doing that because the two things don't seem to have anything in common.
I don't think they're trying to rewrite American history. I think there's a worldview difference. People on the left believe that we should focus relentlessly on the most negative aspects of our history, and there have been negative aspects of our history. There's no questioning that. But people on the left in this country want our country to be defined today by the most negative aspects of our history. People on the right, as led by the president today, would like to focus on what you, I think, correctly called the promise of America, what makes America great, what we have done to overcome the worst aspects of our history. This example that Brandon Gill pulled is one of the most egregious examples of excess at this museum. I mean, it's like their white supremacy list. Individualism and self-reliance, nuclear family structures, rational, linear thinking, work before you play. It goes on and on and on.
Politeness. Including she would acknowledge that, first of all, that wasn't policy at the museum. It was done by an individuals who worked there.
Okay, so Abby tries to explain that away. I mean, if you're going to the Smithsonian, Mike, to see an exhibit, you're not going to care if it's temporary, if it's permanent, who put it there. You're going to look at that and say, what in the world are they doing here? And that was what was exposed in the last couple of days. But again, most of the media won't even share that information.
I don't know what Abby was doing there, to be honest. I just did the Scott Jennings show. I had a great time. He gets it. This is an elite, highly, I'm not going to say educated, highly diplomaed, accredited a bunch of people who have taken these institutions, because it's 21 museums, they've taken these institutions and they want to tell the American people that they live in an awful country, that we're facing structural oppression, that we're facing systemic racism. And if you believe these things, well, the only thing you can do then is get rid of all the structures and all the systems. In other words, they want to destroy the status quo and put in something else. They shouldn't be allowed to be doing this with taxpayer money. The Smithsonian is not a plaything for them. You have to wonder where people like Zohar Mamdani and Daria Lisa Chevalier and Katie Wilson in Seattle and the self-confessed communists with the Nazi tattoo in Maine, where they came from or why people voted for them, where they have been told these things ad infinitum for the last 20 years, that this is an awful country. That's what is happening.
Yeah, and that's what's being exposed. By the way, you get a double hit today, Mike, because Jennings' show is syndicated, and it will air tonight at 8 p.m. on 97.1 FM Talk, and he was right about that. Now, let me ask you this. Do you have hope that any of this exposure here the last couple of days will change anything? Because, again, the media coverage is exactly the opposite. The narrative that the Washington Post has with this, and clearly Abby, is that it's the Republicans that are trying to rewrite history, which could not be further from the truth.
Yeah, I mean, look, reporting. I got off the phone about an hour ago with a reporter for a major mainstream daily. I'm not going to embarrass him. He misquoted me. He misquoted me, and he agrees that he misquoted me. And it went out. It's published like that, and in the Dead Tree edition. So everybody got that on the door this morning. But I was a journalist for 20 years. I made mistakes, so I wasn't hard on him. But he's corrected the version online. I think a lot of the journalists are actually trying to do a fairly objective job in covering the White House report. I must say that the mainstream dailies that are dealing with me quote me accurately.
Okay.
And I'm trying to see the world the way I see it, and they're not hitting me with rabbit punches. That is not to say that that's not going to happen tomorrow, because a lot of people are writing about me at this moment. But we have to keep the ball going. The White House report has changed the narrative, and we need to keep the momentum going. This leadership of the Smithsonian has to go.
Do you know if there's a follow-up to these hearings and what might happen? Is someone just can the president just fire her, or is that not possible?
Like, that is not possible.
Okay.
I don't want to get too much into it because I know, I think I'm privy to the thinking of some people, and I don't want to.
All right, that's okay. Fair enough. But if she's going to leave her position, it sounds like she would have to resign the position in all likelihood.
Well, Lonnie Bunch, who really is the heart of the problem, her boss, the secretary of the Smithsonian, he's a survivalist. He will throw her overboard the way he did with Kim Sajay, the director of the National Portrait Gallery. Trump wanted her fired. And Lonnie Bunch said, no, I could do that. And within a week, she was gone.
Interesting.
But he is, even if he fired Hardig, he needs to go. He's the one that needs to be fired. Him and the entire leadership. The Board of Regents has to do its job.
Boy, I hope they do, Mike Gonzalez, and thank you so much for exposing this with your testimony coming on here this afternoon. And we'll hear you tonight on the Scott Jennings Show. Mike, always great to have you on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Brought to you by
Traffic
Liberty Mutual Insurance.
Well, that was the old double punch. The host does that sometimes. Trent, just take it away. I messed that up. Ethan will correct it. How's traffic looking right now?
All right, it's looking a little heavy on 64 if you're headed westbound out of the city from about Kings Highway over to Big Bend. Your southbound side of 170 is slow going, getting into 64 from about Forest Park Parkway. Eastbound side of 64 is slow through Chesterfield, and then again approaching 270, and then once again 170 to Big Bend. Your northbound side of 270 slowing around Gravois to 244, and southbound side roughly from 64 slow going all the way to past Manchester. I'm Trent Erickson with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Brought to you by Liberty Mutual Insurance.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Brought to you by Liberty Mutual Insurance. Why pay full insurance when you can customize and save? Switch to Liberty Mutual and they'll customize your auto and home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Let's just face it, right? Your home should work for you, not against you. Hi, it's Kim, and if you've been dreaming of a new kitchen, bathroom, or a finished basement, now's the time to call Lakeside Renovation and Design. They're St. Louis's trusted experts in turning houses into dream homes. Just imagine this, a spa-like bathroom, maybe a chef-inspired kitchen, or how about a cozy basement perfect for some movie nights? Their team handles everything from design to installation so you can just sit back and enjoy the process. Visit lakesidearty.com today to start your dream renovation.
Men, are you just not feeling it? Could be your testosterone. U.S. Men's Medical Center in St. Peters helps men experiencing loss of energy, focus, concentration, and low libido. Check out the testimonials at usmensmedicalcenter.com. Patients are excited about feeling great, having energy, improved libido. Plus, they love the staff and the fact that they accept all insurance, including Medicare. Call U.S. Men's Medical Center at 636-244-5333. USMen'sMedicalCenter.com.
According to MasterCard, nearly half of small businesses have been a victim of a cyber attack. As cybercrime escalates, ThrottleNet is calling on businesses to strengthen their security posture by taking a free online IT security audit right from your desk. This 3-minute online assessment provides an immediate score to see security gaps and vulnerabilities in your network. For 26 years, ThrottleNet has supported your business IT everything right here in St. Louis. In fact, no client of ThrottleNet has ever paid a ransom. So visit throttlenet.com/971 to take the free assessment today.
Mark Cox here. Join me, Annie Fry, and Mark Reardon, along with Bob and Tammy Kershaw of the Retirement Advisory Group, to learn how to create your worry-free retirement. We'll meet August 11th at the DoubleTree Hotel in Chesterfield at 6:30. Here are Bob and Tammy with more.
Are you nearing retirement or already retired and wondering how to turn your 401k and IRA into a worry-free retirement? Would you like to learn the strategies that give you market growth but protects you from market losses at the same time?
Would you like to get a free personalized retirement income plan? And did you also know if you're 59 and a half or older, you can roll over your company retirement plan tax-free to create a worry-free retirement. If you're 59 and a half or older, you cannot afford to miss this event.
Have a worry-free retirement. Join the official financial advisors of my show, Bob and Tammy Kershaw, at the DoubleTree Hotel in Chesterfield, Tuesday, August 11th at 6:30. Go to retirementkey.com. That's retirementkey.com.
Hi, this is Steve Butts from the Crawford Butts Insurance Agency. In 2026, our agency celebrates a momentous occasion as we celebrate 65 years of service to our clients, a tribute to our founder and my dad, Nor Butts. Our staff is ready to assist you with all your insurance needs. So please call me, Steve Butts, at 314-752-2500 or at crawfordbutts.com. For auto, home, and commercial insurance needs, that's crawfordbutts.com.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
3:32, and this portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly, heating, air conditioning, electrical, and plumbing.
2026 is a big year for America, and we'll be here with you, celebrating every step of the way. America 250 on 97.1 FM Talk, sponsored by Paramount Men's Medical Center.
Been just a bit since we have visited with Jen Say from XXXY Athletics, but today is a perfect day for that because this Sophie Cunningham story is really, really blown up across all of the media, and I just love it so much. And it's so funny because Sophie Cunningham is a WNBA star. She plays with Caitlin Clark now. She used to be on the Phoenix Mercury, but she played at Mizzou because she's from Columbia. She played at Rockbridge. Her story is really interesting because she even got into a couple of football games where I think she tried to kick field goals and extra points. And she got two, I think it was a field goal and an extra point. And she was also homecoming queen. But she has this reputation, and I followed her at Mizzou because when she was a star at Mizzou, the women's basketball team, was better, and they were winning, and they were getting attention. And while she was not, at the Caitlin Clark level, she got a lot of people, that were noticing her from around the country when she was a collegiate athlete. And now, because she plays with Caitlin and because of this point meme that's out there, because she was pointing, some of this is a little bit, lengthy to get into for people who don't know what's happening, but there was an incident on the court that involved Caitlin where, she was making it very clear to the offending player that put her, hand on Caitlin Clark's throat that was not appropriate. So she points her finger and she gives a look. And by the way, for people who haven't seen Sophie Cunningham, she's freaking hot. Okay, she's a beautiful, beautiful young girl. So that plays into, her brand and her marketing as well. So ESPN does this very long profile on her that goes out yesterday. And there's a very, very small part of the profile that includes her position on biological men playing against biological women. And I'll get back to some of the other part of the profile because actually it's pretty cool when they talk about her and her father is quoted and some of the things they remember from when she was young, like a kid playing in Columbia. But she has a reputation in the WNBA as being a little bit of an enforcer. And I think we're more familiar with that, in hockey, like Tony Twist comes to mind, right? So if somebody does something to your player, you're going to be the one that gets in the middle there and then you're going to do something about it. So Sophie Cunningham, to a certain extent, has that reputation. So in the piece, this is one of the lines. You think she's a dirty player? That one used to eat at her, but what you call dirty, she calls work ethic. Really? It's just I work hard and I don't let anyone mess with me. You say she's authentic. That's because she is, she says. You see so many people, I love this quote actually, you see so many people change or try to fit into a box. I don't even know what that box is. It's a fake box. Everyone wants to look the same. Everyone wants the same vibe. Screw that. I'm going to be me. And that's, I think, one of the things that impresses people about Sophie. But here's the part that gets her into trouble with the Alphabet Mafia, okay? And with people out there that can't define what a woman is, like this woman who's testifying, well, can I even call her a woman, Fred, before the congressional hearings on the Smithsonian. So the paragraph is this. It's as simple as this. You say she's a MAGA Barbie, as some corners of the internet have taken to calling her. Projection, she says, because of what she looks like and where she's from. She'll weigh in on how to, quote, they put this in quotes, which is interesting, protect women's sports, unquote, she says, because she's in that world and feels qualified to speak to that world. Now, here's the quote that has gotten her in so much trouble, Fred. I got a lot of negative feedback about me hating trans, and I'm like, I never once said that. I think that I'm here to extend love, but I also think that with that love is truth, being honest, and I want to protect young girls in a locker room or young girls in a sport who shouldn't have to go against biological men. So one of the first responses I see out there on social media when this thing clears yesterday is from someone that has, the Alphabet Mafia pride flag on their name. It says, Sophie Cunningham is unafraid to be blatantly transphobic. And here's the quote that they put. This is what's so funny. So the tweet is, Sophie Cunningham is unafraid to be blatantly transphobic. And then they put the quote in there that proves that she's transphobic, right? So here's the quote. I want to protect young girls in a locker room or young girls in a sport who shouldn't have to go against biological men. And this person says her own words in an ESPN article. And then there's people that are calling for her to be suspended because of how transphobic that was. Now, let me go back to the quote that I just read from @Roberta WBB. That quote, I want to protect young girls in the locker room or young girls in a sport who shouldn't have to go against biological men. 99% of the people in this country, it's not 80%. Stop it with the 80-20. 99% of the people in this country would agree with that. Democrats, Republicans, independents, hell, I think even the communists would agree with that at this point, right? But that's transphobic. It's just hilarious. Now, here's Megan Rapinoe, who is a complete embarrassment, and I'm just ashamed that she was ever on our, United States women's national soccer team, trying to write this stuff away.
Pull back a little. At first it was like, well, nobody likes women's sports and nobody wants to watch it. Or there was, abuse happening and nobody seemed to care. Now all of a sudden we're going to use a vulnerable group of people in the trans community to be like, oh, well, we're just protecting women's sports and we care so much about it. When the Heritage Foundation is now going to go after Title IX. So is it about reproductive rights or is it about just women's rights in general?
I don't even know what she's saying. I have no idea what she's saying. No, it's very simple. What it's about is it's about allowing women who have worked hard, like Sophie Cunningham, her whole life, who was a competitor when she was like 5 years old and has gotten to the professional level of her sport. And she doesn't want biological men competing against other little girls. She just had a camp that was great a couple of days ago, Fred, where there were like 300 kids and she was posing with the pointed finger. There are people that are calling that meme racist. It's unreal. So here's Megan. She keeps going on with her BS here.
We're seeing the rollback of Roe v. Wade. Marriage equality, I feel like, is getting put back on the table.
There's no rollback of Roe v. Wade, by the way. It was exactly the opposite. I don't know what these people are saying. There's nothing that is true in that whatsoever.
Settled law. And so all of these things, like, yes, they're going after trans people in sports, and they're using this as a wedge issue because we love sports and, we don't want our little girls to be unsafe in sports. And it's like, unsafe from who? But okay. But
unsafe from men. Again, the person that's done the best work on this is J.K. Rowling, exposing some of the things that happen in women's prisons when men decide that they want to be women.
now we're using this as like an overarching thing when really what we're attacking women. We're saying, if you look like this as a woman, you can play. If you look like this as a woman, there's a bill in Washington happening right now that's going to require all girls, just like full stop, to go through a sex test, an invasive, examining their genitals to see if they're a woman.
Yeah. And that has not worked out well historically.
Nobody's going to do that. The whole thing, she's, spreading a bunch of BS out there. And again, how she's not challenged on this is just unreal. Nobody pushes back whatsoever. She gets to say whatever she wants. Again, we're 99% of the country is on the other side. And at a certain point, I think someone needs to tell Megan that she's out there on an island with all these other pro-trans people. And most normal people don't want any part of that world.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
All right, things are heavy on 64 if you're headed out of downtown from Kings Highway to Clayton, and then again Lindbergh to 270. And then you got a Lake St. Louis on out to the Wentzville area on the westbound side of 64, because at 70, things are blocked with construction. You can't go any further. You've got to take 70. They force you onto 70 west or eastbound. So keep that in mind if you're headed out in that particular area. 270 southbound slows from 64 on down to past Manchester, and 170 southbound from Forest Park Parkway down to 64 is pretty heavy going. I'm Trent Erickson with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
This is a special place, but not by accident. Learn our backstory, and you'll even love America more. Celebrating America 250 on 97.1 FM Talk, I'm Brian Kilmeade.
America 250 is sponsored by Paramount Men's Medical Center.
For state senate, I like Mike. Mike Deering knows what a hard day's work looks like because he's done it his whole life.
I like Mike. He's a dad. He knows what our families are up against.
Mike Deering's a businessman. He knows what red tape actually costs.
I like Mike because Mike Deering stands with President Trump. Secure the border, cut our taxes, put Missouri first.
I'm Mike Deering. Career politicians spend more and tax more while your family gets squeezed. I'll lower your taxes, keep your money in your pockets, and cut government waste so deep it'll make the politicians squeal.
Mike Deering, farmer, small business owner, dad, conservative. I like Mike.
I like Mike.
I like Mike. For state senate, I like Mike. Mike Deering. On Tuesday, August 4th, vote Republican Mike Deering for state senate. Make common sense conservative leadership common again. Paid for by friends of Mike Deering. Megan Kaiser, treasurer.
Men, if you're suffering from erectile dysfunction or PE, you're not alone. Most importantly, you don't have to live with it. Paramount Men's Medical Center restores men's sex lives in just one visit. Their painless breakthrough treatments eliminate ED and PE, even when Viagra and Cialis don't work. Here's Dr. Simovitz, specialist in men's health.
Paramount Men's Medical Center's painless breakthrough treatments eliminate ED and PE, regardless of age or medical history. 98% of patients see instant results right in the office.
Men are now lasting longer than they ever imagined. And the best part, at Paramount Men's Medical Center, your consultation and first treatment are free. Qualified patients even get their testosterone checked free. Call 314-887-4333. 314-887-4333. Take control of your sex life. Call now. 314-887-4333.
The radical left let crime and drugs pour into our nation, and they let biological men into girls' sports. But here in Missouri, if there's a problem, we fix it. That's why Ann Wagner's fixing the mess the radical left made and delivering for us. Wagner voted to ban biological men from competing in girls' sports, and she voted to fund the police and provide more resources for Border Patrol agents, keeping our families, communities, and children safe. And Ann Wagner didn't stop there. In Congress, Wagner passed the largest working-class tax cut in American history, kept big government out of our business, protected our way of life, and ensured our communities remain safe. That's why Ann Wagner's endorsed by the Missouri Farm Bureau and Missouri Fraternal Order of Police. Vote Ann Wagner for Congress on August 4th.
I'm Ann Wagner, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Ann Wagner for Congress.
Don't let tax refund worries hold you back. File now with TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They'll find every credit and deduction to help you get every refund dollar you deserve, or your money back. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
The Mark Reardon Show, 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis conservative.
Sue is off today. She'll be back on Monday, taking a few days off. We'll have Trent filling in. We do have Ethan filling in for Sue's news. In the next hour, also Brenda Talent from the Show Me Institute to talk about Amendment 5. That is the phase out of the state income tax. Ben Ferguson, nationally syndicated talk show host, back with us this afternoon. He's also the host of the Ben Ferguson podcast. Hello, Ben. How are you?
How are you, man?
I'm doing good. I don't even know where to start because there's so much crazy stuff going out there. Have you been, I'm sure you have been dialed into the Smithsonian hearing where this woman, Anthea Hartig, really is struggling explaining some of the nonsense that's going on at the National Museum of American History.
Wait, you mean that liberals took over the Smithsonian and decided to politicize it and indoctrinate our kids to hate America more and tell us that we're an evil, racist country where we should just completely throw into socialism, communism, Marxism? That would never happen.
Shocking.
Never would that happen in a million years, right?
Well, and I just had Mike Gonzalez on from Heritage, and he's testified the last couple of days, and I love exposing this stuff. But I guess going to your point, I mean, it's been there it's been building for a while, right? So how do you actually peel some of this stuff back? I think it's great that it's being exposed, and hopefully some people are paying attention. But will things actually change at the Smithsonian?
Yeah, look, it's egregious what the Smithsonian has allowed to happen. I actually believe that when you politicize things and at the Smithsonian, the way that they're being politicized, like, you deserve to get fired from your job. I'm not in favor of firing people because of their political beliefs. I am in favor of firing people when they abuse their job and it's supposed to be non-political to push a political ideology. And that is exactly what we're witnessing now. And some of the offenses, they're not just laughable, they're absurd. And look, this is what the left did so well and has done so well for a really long time. They understood that you can change this country in one generation. If you can take over our high schools, if you can take over elementary schools, our middle schools, and then take over our colleges, you can grow an entire generation, even at the Ivy League level, right, where the smartest kids go, to fundamentally believe that America is evil, that America is an awful place, and that American, democracy and freedoms are somehow tainted. Therefore, you need socialism, which really is communism, which is really a form of Marxism. And that's what you really need to, right the wrongs of evil America. And they played this, let's be clear, perfectly and flawlessly for not one generation. Now it's about two generations. And look, what we're watching right now in America is the people that were indoctrinated. There are now enough voters in their peer group that you're seeing the Mandamis, you're seeing the AOCs, you're seeing the Eric Swalwells who almost become governor. You're seeing the Gavin Newsoms that almost could become president. Like, we are on the verge of losing this country, and people don't realize why it happened.
No, it's frightening. It really is. And, people like you and I have talked about this for years. And, I always thought that when you use the Marxist table, then people kind of tune you out because you think, or they may think it's hyperbolic. Well, it's anything but hyperbolic at this point, and they're kind of owning it, right? And even with that, I wonder how much of this stuff is going to be really exposed and where people take a step back like Bill Maher has and some others saying, look, I'm not down with communist America. So will there be people in the middle that will be vocal about that like Bill Maher?
Yeah, look, you look at Bill Maher and you look at Van Jones in the last week. They have sounded the alarm, but you have to understand why they're sounding the alarm. You can add James Carville to that list. They're sounding the alarm not because they are afraid of socialism. They're sounding the alarm because they're afraid of losing. They're afraid that nationwide, America is really just not ready, right, for what Mandami is and what the Democratic Socialists and their new agenda they put out, which I would encourage every one of your listeners to go to their website and read what they put in writing about how much they hate America and how much they want America to fail and what they believe in, right? They want to abolish the Supreme Court. They want to abolish the Senate. They want to abolish everything that makes us a democracy.
By the way, just quickly, I want to toss in, because you may have seen this. There's a really, really good piece from a guy in the FP at the Free Press who was in the Democrat Socialists of America who talked about a lot of this stuff too, and that's at thefp.com. I don't know if you've seen that, Ben, but it's really good. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
It's a great point. But like, what you look at now is, if you look at what Van Jones said, and he said this on TV the other night, he was like, I'm warning people. He's only saying it because he's afraid of losing power. It's not because they really disagree with prison reform and bail reform and packing the Supreme Court and getting rid of the Senate. It's just they're afraid that it's too soon and it won't win, and therefore they lose, and Republicans gain seats in the House, gain seats in the Senate in the midterm elections. So you got to understand why they're saying it. I actually think Bill Maher is a little different. I think Bill Maher is getting older, and I think he realizes that he helped able and aid and abet these wackos who now are so crazy that he actually has that, what I refer to as the old man guilty conscience. Like, wow, maybe I did a lot more harm than good to this country, and he's trying to right his wrong. I actually think that's why he's doing it.
All right, so let me play this. How do you react to this? These are Democrats claiming there's no evidence of illegals voting in this country.
There is no evidence that undocumented migrants vote.
We're debating a problem that does not exist.
This is a solution in search of a problem that does not exist.
The evidence is almost no illegal immigrants vote.
All right, so look, that's a supercut. I could go on for another minute because someone put that together and it's really, really good. But lo and behold, we were told on good authority that this never happens. And then Mikey Sherrill from New Jersey comes out and says, yeah, it was an accident, but we registered 6,000 migrants that weren't here legally, and a bunch of them voted too.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, it's no actual person's fault. Yet she pointed the finger at her prior administration, right?
Right.
And then she says, oh, it was a computer, but it wasn't under my watch, but I'm going to fix the problem now. This is why you refer to it as liberalism is a disease. Like, this is that disease where they look at you straight in the face. They know they're lying to you. They don't care. And then when they get caught, they're like, we didn't do it. The other governor before me, who's a hardcore leftist liberal, did it. Oh, and they didn't technically do it. It was a computer that did it. But don't worry, really in real life, there's no illegal immigrants that are actually voting. And if you look at her statement when she announced this on X, what did the New Jersey governor say? She actually said there's no systemic voter fraud happening, and Donald Trump is evil and hates America.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, she had to pull. Of course, she had to pull that out because then she would have been criticized if she hadn't done that by the rest of the Democrats, right?
Correct.
It's still his problem. And that's going to be interesting to see moving forward. Let me ask you about Iran, because obviously now we're in a period where we have more strikes. The president keeps repeating over and over that, we've demolished much of their infrastructure and they can't have a nuclear weapon. But I've been, for a couple of months now, been very concerned about the Q word, quagmire, and gas prices have come down just a little bit. But this thing is kind of lingering out there with no end in sight and what's going to define victory.
Yeah, look, I think this is going to matter for the midterms. I think the president also understands that when you're dealing with crazies that want a nuclear weapon to kill us, that you still have to deal with that problem, whether you have midterms or not. And I think he was afraid they were getting far too close to that nuclear weapon, and what would they do with that nuclear weapon? So I understand the president where he is. I do think this is a moment where the president has to get a real quick understanding of what he's going to do, at least now through the midterms. If it is maximum pressure, which is clearly what the strategy is right now, then you cannot let up, right? You've got to keep the sanctions. You don't negotiate. You beat them into submission, and you get Americans proud of our military in that capacity. But if you do another back and forth, right, where you do a ceasefire and you sign agreement, and then that doesn't work again, it is going to be a massive stain come midterm election time. So the president's in a very, very small sweet spot right now where he has to choose what is the strategy going to be through the midterms. And look, I don't trust the Iranians. Every time you kill off a level of their leadership, another radical level comes in. Then you have the civil war happening between the IRGC and the people that are negotiating in Geneva or wherever they meet to negotiate, and they undermine them. So I don't think this is going to get done soon. Unfortunately, I don't see it unless the president decimates them militarily to the point where they have no choice but to agree to something, even if it's a fake agreement for a year or two, while they get their head about them. Because, look, if you start hitting what they care about, and that's their refineries, and that's their lights, and that's their water, salvation, the salvation plants, like, that's the only way you're going to probably get a deal done. And I think the president now understands that. And cutting off their oil. They're a COD country, cash on delivery. Their oil has to go out, and the money has to come in to keep their power. And if we shut down their oil and their shipping, the president has all the leverage in the world. And look, unfortunately, we had him on the mat and we let him up. And I think that was the wrong decision. Now, looking back, again, that's armchair quarterbacking. But these people are radical crazies. And if there's anything we learned about the Middle East, sometimes you just can't reason with insane people.
Yeah, and I think, unfortunately, that's why this is going to drag out. And I agree with you on most of what you just said. Thank you, Ben Ferguson. Awesome to have you on the show. I really appreciate it.
Hey, man, great to talk to you. Have a good day.
Take care. We got Fox News coming up here at the top of the hour. When we return, we'll have a Wednesday edition of Sue's News, and Ethan's going to do that because Sue's out for a few days. She'll be back on Monday. We are loaded up, though, this afternoon still because we have Brenda Talent, who is the executive director of the Show Me Institute, is going to talk about Amendment 5. That is the phase-out of the income tax. By the way, Governor Kehoe is going to join us this week. That will be on Friday. We have a roundtable set for Friday with Jeff Rainford and David Barklage. Governor Kehoe in the 5 o'clock hour. We'll talk music with Tim Summer. I know that we have Kilmeade scheduled for tomorrow. I want to mention that, Brian's coming back here, and that show's going to be here before you know it. If you're looking to get tickets for his show at the Factory in November, it's a Saturday night, November 21st. It's going to be great. He's been at the Factory for the last couple of years. He loves the venue. We have packed the place. Tickets are available right now. And again, he'll be with us tomorrow right around 3:18 right here on 97.1 FM Talk.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Working a couple stalls on 70 on the eastbound side. You've got a stall working. This is right around 270 or just before 270. It's off to the right side. And then past 141 also you get a stall before that off to the right side as well. And some slowing in those areas. 270 southbound starts to hit the brakes around 64 on down to past Manchester. And then again from 44 down to Gravois and approaching 55. You've got 64 main delays coming out of downtown from Kings Highway over to Big Bend. And then again from 170 over to 270. And then as you approach the Wentzville area, we've got the closure there. You can't go any further west than 70. They force you onto 70 there. So there's some big problems getting into that area. Eastbound side hits the brakes from Mason to 270 and then again from 170 to Big Bend. I'm Trent Erickson with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Let's get you together with the team from Banner Construction to talk about making your home look better, and they can do that in a variety of ways. We talk about some of the great products that Banner deals with, like James Hardie fiber cement siding, which is an amazing product, and builders really love it. But if you have plain, light vinyl siding on your home, and you're going to stay in your home, and you're looking for something that has low maintenance, a great warranty, a ton of benefits like termite and pest resistance, and it just is a better quality product than you're going to find to put on your house. And one of the great things about the Hardie Performance is they're going to put different product on your home here in Missouri than they would, for example, in a colder climate in Wisconsin or Minnesota. Same thing goes for warmer climates, perhaps with a little bit more humidity like Florida or Louisiana. So outstanding performance no matter where you live in the country. It's durable. It delivers beautiful aesthetic qualities of wood without the maintenance, and you want it on your house. So if you want to find out a little bit more about the benefits of James Hardie fiber cement siding, that's real easy to do. Go to the bannerconstruction.com website or schedule a free consultation. 314-569-1050 is the way you do that. Now they also specialize in beautiful replacement windows, and they recommend Pella replacement windows. They're some of the best in the industry. There's a little theme here that goes with Banner Construction because Banner has been in St. Louis since 1993, really doing outstanding work with customers for 3 decades plus. And those companies really put a lot of trust into Banner Construction, and that's why they both succeed so well together. BannerConstruction.com or 569-1050.
Last year, I had back pain radiating down my right leg. The pain was so bad I was willing to cut my leg off to stop the pain. I could barely walk and had to stoop over when I did just to take pressure off the spine. I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. In my professional career, I've represented thousands of people who've had herniated discs and issues with their neck and back, but never fully appreciated what they were going through until it was my turn. It's like trying to describe colors to a blind person who's never had sight. All I can tell you is it hurt like hell, but worse. My daily walk was gone, and that bothered me a great deal. Then I thought of all of you and how much more devastating this type of injury could be for you. My life stopped. I now feel your pain. Just know at Morgan & Morgan, we got your back. I understand. Morgan means more.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Past results afford no guarantee of future results. Every case is different and must be judged on its own merits.
Hey, Stewie, I need some cash. I need money. Who doesn't need money? What can you do for me?
You know, Annie, this is a question people ask all the time. Now, pay attention because this is important. Don't get a home equity line of credit. A home equity line of credit is a credit card on your house. It's typically not a fixed rate, so it's an adjustable. You pay interest only. And there's a short-term opportunity to take the money out, and then later on, it turns into a loan that's a really high interest rate. Cash cash out refinance. That's the most important thing. Refinance your entire mortgage. Get the best rate that's out there. Give yourself the opportunity to refinance later when the rates drop. A cash out refinance is a little bit higher of a rate than a rate and term refinance. Do the cash out now, set yourself up for the future, and get the best deal out there. Just do me one favor. Don't tell my wife about this because she's going to want all the cash in the world to buy a new car.
Well, if you want to know more, Google the Bagel Loan to find out more information or call my friend Stewie, 314-324-4440. That's 314-324-4440. Google the Bagel Loan for more information. NMLS number 226715.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-777-7777.
That's 314-777-7777.
The president hits the road. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. Chants of USA at a high school in Georgia, as President Trump said this will never be a communist country.
Remember during the State of the Union, I said that this country will never be a socialist country, remember? And I was right. They skipped socialism. They went right to communism.
He accuses far-left Democrats of being communists. Democrats accuse him of making America less affordable. His Georgia event aimed at highlighting the Trump investment accounts for kids and Republican candidates in the state. The president traveling there from Dover Air Force Base in Delaware after the dignified transfer ceremony for 4 soldiers killed last weekend in the fighting with Iran, including First Lieutenant Tyler Feehan, whose family lives in Georgia. The president inviting his loved ones to travel back to the state on Air Force One today.
And they said, wow, this is something, thank you so much. But they're heartbroken. You know, they're heartbroken. But they couldn't believe it.
He calls all of the fallen soldiers heroes and defends the effort to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. Also warning today that the U.S. will hit a bridge or power plant anytime Iran shoots at a ship in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran threatening to hit similar targets in the region. Secretary of State Marco Rubio telling reporters,
"We remain open to diplomacy. We remain open to working it out in a negotiated way. But right now, they don't seem to be serious about that. And so we're going to continue to protect shipping." This
at a summit in the Philippines where he met with China's foreign minister as well. Tropical storm Bertha landing on the southern tip of Louisiana as it churns up the Gulf.
9-foot swells out here, 40-plus mile-an-hour wind gusts here in Dauphin Island, which is just south of Mobile, Alabama.
Fox Weather's Robert Ray. Tropical storm force winds extending out 100 miles from the center of Bertha. Storm surge, the other main threat. America is listening to Fox News.
Onyx, I keep having stomach issues. Please make me a doctor's appointment.
Okay, are you suffering from diarrhea, bloating, gas, or oily stools? If so, you may want to ask your doctor if it could actually be a problem with your pancreas, called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI.
My pancreas? How is EPI treated?
A prescription medicine like Creon, pancrelipase, is used to treat people who can't digest food normally because their pancreas doesn't make enough enzymes. Creon is the #1 prescribed treatment for EPI.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you are allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor, and always with food. Do not chew capsules, as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon. You can learn more at 1-800-633-9110.
Before your appointment, visit creoninfo.com. That's CREON info.com.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Our weather's delightful for evening plans. Temperatures in the 70s, low humidity, partly cloudy skies, and we'll dip down to 62. Thursday, sunny and nice. Spectacular again. 82 for the high, easy to take. Some clouds moving in. Thursday night, 66. Friday is unsettled. Changeable sky with a mix of clouds and sunshine. Expect scattered thunderstorms anytime near 80. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's a special place, and I am here to announce my candidacy.
I'm only kidding.
That was pretty good.
That is good.
I mean, you know, I'm sure that the MS Now folks will take that as Trump being serious. Look, he's trying to run for another term. He's not going to give, the office up, all these things. Actually, a couple of things on the humor front. This was okay. I'll play it just because I think I like Bill Maher. But did you see what happened with Bill Maher last night? So he's got the Mark Twain Prize. I don't even know what that is. But he's interrupted by Trump. It's not. It's like a comedian doing Trump. Mildly entertaining. Here's what it sounded like.
Thank you so very much. You have truly made this one of the most memorable nights of my...
Hold on, Bill. I'm going to let you finish. But I got to say, I had one of the greatest comedy careers of all time.
Oh, could you just...
All time.
I just won an award. Could you just let me...
Quiet, piggy. Why are we giving this low ratings, lightweight jerk the Mark Twain Award? Mark Twain, who I knew very well. We love Mark Twain. He's a great American, great on terrorists, very strong on them. He sailed the Mississippi, which used to be called the Mississippi before the crazy Democrats made a transition. These are sick people. These are sick people. Making a river change its pronouns. But I'll tell you one thing, Bill. It is much mightier than the very weak Strait of Hormuz, okay?
Look.
So I think it's kind of like it was a funny bit. If you would have had a better Trump, because that guy wasn't the greatest in Trump. It would have been better if it was, but I thought it was mildly entertaining. So there you have it. And that's I think Bill can have fun with that because he's not a hater and he's more in the common sense aspect of things. So I think this is just kind of interesting and funny, and I don't even know what to make of it. I'll be honest with you. But I asked Fred this question earlier because, you and I have worked together for a long time, and on the other side of the building on KMOX, what was interesting is we probably relied on CNN audio a lot more than Fox audio when we were over there. And I'll just be honest with the audience. I've said this before. It wasn't like I had anything against Fox News. But I was not a Fox viewer, and I think it was just habit. I mean, I still remember coming home from, a journalism class when the space shuttle, exploded and watching CNN and, they've always been the authority for news. I knew that their hosts were.
News.
Yeah. And look, don't get me wrong. We would always highlight when we would play audio from CNN, we would highlight the bias and some of the stuff like that. But it never, I guess it was maybe even before, Fred, when it was the Kavanaugh hearings that pissed me off. And I think at that point, I'm like, I'm done with CNN. And I think that a lot of my listeners were a little shocked that I was unfamiliar with a lot of the Fox people. Like, for example, they just, I think yesterday, and I see this when I'm on the air, they're in the 5 right now, aren't they? I think they just started it. So they celebrated 15 years of the 5 yesterday, which that's pretty significant. But I remember this, and I remember a listener kind of chastising me because I would play some audio back. This goes back 5 years, maybe even before I was on 97.1. And I played something from Jessica Tarlov, and I'm like, I don't even know who this person is. Well, she's a big player on Fox. She's kind of like maybe the token liberal or one of them. But
she's
at that point,
kind of like the Scott Jennings on
to a certain
CNN,
extent, yeah, not nearly as good, but
Fox.
she's okay, right. And she comes around. She's not completely wacko. Harold Ford, who's on there right now, like I'm looking at him. They're not completely extreme progressives. They have to play by some of the same rules that we do, Fred. I mean, when we put the roundtable together, we're not going to put Rashid Aldridge on the show from the Board of Aldermen because he's a communist, right? That will drive the audience away. Well, so I bring it up because I think people, if you watch Fox, maybe you don't know who this is, but Brooke Baldwin was one of the anchors on CNN. She was like the morning midday anchor. She had a very prime time, spot. My guess would be if you don't know the name, if you looked her up, if you Googled Brooke Baldwin right now, and by the way, based on what I'm about to tell you, maybe you want to do that, no judging, you'd recognize who she was, right? Very attractive. She was attractive. And this is Megyn Kelly on her podcast because apparently Brooke Baldwin is now, I guess she's got to make money. She was let go from CNN. I don't know exactly what she's doing. I'll just kind of let Megyn tell you the story here.
Okay. Her work and her mission include banging 4 men in a month, one of whom, from her piece, her written piece, one of whom says he flew in just to take her to dinner and spends his days working to save democracy, one congressional district at a time.
Come on. Yeah. So she's writing about this and like her sexcapades. Can I say that? Is that word work there?
Doesn't say who it is. Where's Smug again today?
Outrageous.
Perfect setup.
Just kidding. Man 2, one used to run a country. Man 3, one is just hot. Man 4, not described at all, that's tough for that guy. She says some of the men now subscribe to her newsletter. Hi, fellas.
So maybe you think it might be Justin Trudeau. One used to lead, one used to lead a country. You never know.
All reading about each other and Brooke Baldwin's journey of awakening. I mean, the self-help talk, the journeys of awakening. I see you, her gratitude, the music, like the weird spa music from I don't know, India, the overly therapized talk in there. You can tell she spent a lot of years in therapy, the no makeup, my work and my mission.
I don't know what she's doing. And it's not like an OnlyFans thing, but it sounds like she's way out there on the fringe. So I just had to bring that up because Brooke was never my favorite. She was always someone who you could just hear. This was in an era where a lot of us knew bias was there, but it wasn't exposed as much as it is these days because there was no Scott Jennings on CNN back then. And if there was, because Scott's been there for a while, I'm pretty sure he worked when Brooke was there. It wasn't the Scott Jennings that we have grown to know and love here in the past few years. By the way, he's coming into I don't think we're going to get him on the air because I don't think they're coming in until Saturday. But Joe and Scott, Fred, as you know, are coming in for some baseball games this weekend. I'm a little concerned that by the end of the weekend, the Cardinals are going to be under 500. They're playing this afternoon, no score in Anaheim, and then they have this one-off tomorrow.
One tomorrow against Arizona.
And it's going to be at this time, right? Isn't it a 4 p.m. start?
Yeah.
That seems weird because this was a makeup from, was it June 25th, I think? There was a rain out. So it's the makeup. It's the only day that they had on the schedule. But why would you do a 4 p.m. game and not maybe because the Cardinals are getting back late tonight?
5 p.m. start. It's confusing.
Oh, I think it's 4. Yeah, okay. It's weird. Okay, one other story before Sue's news, and Sue is off today, but Ethan is putting it together, and he'll be in here in a couple of minutes. You remember my great story about Kevin Costner hanging out at Sam's Steakhouse?
Oh, yeah.
That's the only time I've been to Sam's Steakhouse. Maybe I shouldn't admit that, but it's a legendary steakhouse here. When Kevin was in town, I don't know, I do know. It was 11 years ago. I know exactly what it was. It was right before Alexa was born because Becky was pregnant. And, the trivia question is, and this is true, the only person who knew Alexa's name before she was born was Kevin Costner and me and Becky. Because when Kevin asked my wife, who was 8 months pregnant, boy or girl, she said girl, we knew that, name, we're not telling anyone. And his response was literally, well, who the F am I going to tell? And then she, boom, folded like a like a cheap suit. And we told him. He did raise a good point. But listen, do you know this story that I'm about to share about the manager there? So a former manager at Sam's Steakhouse has been sentenced to 21 months in prison. This was a miss on my part yesterday because we had Tom Albus on the show, who's the U.S. attorney who was involved in this case. This guy's name is Matthew Brash. He's 48 years old. He had pleaded guilty in April to 1 count of wire fraud. He admitted to misusing the company's credit card for personal use. And this is all according to the U.S. attorney's release from Mr. Albus. Brash was supposed to buy food for Sam's and pay state liquor and other taxes. Instead, he used it for himself. He spent some of these numbers, and you're like, how do you think you're not going to be caught? He spent $81,965 at Target, $90,000 at Target. I mean, I guess if you're buying all your groceries and stuff there, right? That's a lot of Target. $29,801 at the Vineyard Vines clothing store. So he was a preppy. We know that. Do you know that brand, Fred?
No, no.
I think they used to have one at the Galleria, I think. $39,634 at Amazon, which kind of makes sense because you can get anything from Amazon, right? And then $10,000 on local hotel stays for an acquaintance. What? So because of that, Sam's did not have enough money to buy food and pay state taxes. The special agent in charge, Chris Crocker of the FBI, says Matthew Brash's greed didn't just betray the trust placed in him, it nearly cost an iconic restaurant its future. And I guess there's another guy who was a co-defendant who was accused of participating, but he was placed in a pretrial diversion program, and he has to repay $10,000. His name was Mark Ernie. What that tells you is that Mark probably gave up more information on this dude and said, here's what I know, And Matthew decided to plead guilty because when the Fed usually, again, when the Fed's got the goods on you, they have the good 21 months. That, when you compare that to some of the sentences that we've had,
that's pretty good.
It's probably, I would say it would be more. But think about that. I've said this before, Fred. One of the conditions of this is always you have to repay the money. Well, there's not a chance in hell that this guy's going to get a job that allows him to pay back, what is it, about $140,000, $150,000, right? It's just hard for me to believe. And they'll set up some payment plan or whatever. But I start to think of it in the terms of, wow, maybe crime does pay. Right. And I've told this story about this woman in Columbia, Missouri, Christy Tutton, who embezzled. And this was a big, if you think about it, this is a big number back in the 1980s, early 90s, let's say early 90s, about $700,000 from the University of Missouri. She worked at Jesse Hall and she embezzled that much money. And she went to prison for less than 2 years for that. And nobody really ever knew where the money went. Right. She had told her boyfriend at the time, who was a radio personality in Columbia named Andy Tutton, who at one point was a friend of mine, said that, well, that was money from a family member who died, and it's controversial, which, by the way, that's not a bad backstory. Say, don't bring it up, don't bring the money up, because so no one else was proven to be involved in that particular scandal. But I always said, man, she got pregnant before she went into prison, which I think afforded her a lighter sentence, which I think was a plan. But she didn't serve much time at all. And again, nobody really knew where the money went, and she was supposed to pay back the money. It never happened. By the way, she was killed in a car accident not too long after all that happened. So that was a strange circumstance, too. All right, we have Sue's news. Sue is out today. Ethan is going to take that over coming up.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
And things are slow going on 70 if you're headed westbound on over the river to just before Cave Springs, where we've got a crash. It's just in the left lane, but it's causing some big backups in the area. If you're headed on the eastbound side, you've got some road work from Union on into downtown to work with. And 64 westbound side hits the brakes around Kings Highway. Take that to 170. And then again from McKnight to Lindbergh. And then you get some through Chesterfield. But your big one is at 70, where everybody is shoved onto 70 and you can't go any further on the westbound side in that region. Eastbound side slow through Chesterfield as well, and then again from 170 to Big Bend, and 270 southbound hits the brakes right around Olive on down to past Manchester. I'm Trent Erickson with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
When someone hears the words, "You have cancer," it's one of the darkest moments in their life. Light the Night brings light to the darkness of cancer by uniting survivors, patients, and supporters in the cause to end cancer. Friends, families, and coworkers form a community of hope, raising funds in support of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Together, we walk with lanterns held high to light the path to cures. Last year alone, the FDA approved 18 new drug therapies and treatments to treat blood cancers. The impact of LLS-supported research goes beyond blood cancer. The discoveries made in blood cancer research have led to breakthrough treatments for many cancers and other serious diseases. When we walk, cancer runs. Join the movement to end cancer today. Visit us at lightthenight.org.
Have you heard those ads claiming Amendment 4 stops conservative amendments?
That's not true. It actually stops a couple big cities from pushing radical ideas into our Constitution. Remember 2024? Only 8 out of 114 counties voted to allow transgender surgeries on children.
That's terrifying. We can't let just a handful of counties rule the whole state.
Exactly. Amendment 4 requires broad statewide support and keeps foreign money out of our elections. Vote yes on 4 this August 4th.
You convinced me. I'm voting yes too.
Paid for by Freedom Principle MO, Missouri First PAC, Kate Sickles, Treasurer.
I want to talk about Greg Hammonds at greghammonds.com. There are 3 good reasons you should talk with Greg. 1, your health insurance premium is too high. Well, Greg saves most people 30 to 60% on their monthly premiums. 2, your deductible is too high. Well, with most of Greg's plans, you will have no deductible or out-of-pocket expenses. 3, your doctor doesn't take your plan. Well, you can use Greg's plans at most any doctor or hospital in the country. If you pay for your own health insurance, you're uninsured, you're on COBRA, or your employer coverage is just too expensive, call Greg, an expert with over 40 years' experience, at 314-794-7784. That's 314-794-7784. Or go to greghammonds.com. That's greghammonds.com. Greg will customize a plan chosen and managed by you, not the government. Because you don't know what you don't know about your health insurance coverage.
If you're considering buying or selling a home, when it comes to choosing the Gelman team with eXp Realty, numbers don't lie. Over 1,500 Google and Zillow 5-star reviews, nearly 6,000 homes, and $2.5 billion in real estate sold. 314-336-1991, thegelmanteam.com.
It's Tom Ackerman for Ophthalmology Associates, the doctor's doctors, 314-966-5000 or online at youridoc.com.
Lemonade! Fresh squeezed lemonade! Lemonade? Oh, nuts.
Is your business struggling to be seen, not reaching the right customers?
Yeah.
Odyssey's here to help. Your one-stop shop for digital marketing.
Wait, really?
With targeted digital media, plus SEO, SEM, social, OTT, and more, we help your business reach the right audience and drive results.
Whoa, hey, one at a time.
Stop missing out on valuable customers. Visit digitallocalads.com to learn more about our local advertising solutions. That's digitallocalads.com.
Okay, people, line starts here.
Mark Reardon is St. Louis conservative.
These allegations are deeply concerning.
Does the president have any comment?
We're not going to comment.
It's not clear messaging.
No.
And now, Sue's News. Brought to you by Sue.
But not today. Yeah. Ethan will be delivering Sue's News. Take it away.
Ethan in the house.
Yeah, how are you?
Double duty on these shows today on 97.1. Been a busy day, but I'm glad to be filling in for the one and only Sue Thomas. Happy National Hammock Day, everyone. You guys,
I like a hammock. I don't have one.
Hammock,
Fred,
folks?
I like them. It's hard to get out of them, though.
Sometimes it is. My mother and father live in a different house now, but when they had a house that had a great hammock, and there's a really amazing picture of me with Alexa when she was like maybe a year old in that hammock. But I like a hammock nap every once in a while, Ethan. That's what I'd tell you.
You know, I don't know if I've ever actually fallen asleep in one. We used to have one when I was in high school. And I remember falling out of it because a wasp got too close, and I just freaked out, and I fell out of it. And, yeah, I don't think I had that many more.
Well, you wouldn't have been the first person that would fall out of a hammock, right? But, you know, I think Fred and I might bond on this one because I think the best hammock memories have to come from Gilligan's Island, don't they, Fred?
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, there was always a hammock involved there.
Couldn't tell you what that means.
Okay, that's okay.
Gilligan and the Skipper always... They
lived on an island. There wasn't a resort. They had to make good with what they had, and they had a hammock.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys, educating the young one here on the show. This is a really cool story that is just now getting into the news. This happened earlier in the year, and maybe you've seen it here and there, but it's just now getting big. Because the story, to a certain extent, just completed. Now, let me explain.
I love this story.
A Portland teenager found a random old Lakers jacket in a Goodwill bin this past January. Paid $3.07 for it.
This sounds like a Fred story.
Oh, my gosh. I'm loving this.
7 months later, this kid made bank. And the reason that he did is because it wasn't just some random Lakers jacket. It was verified by Sotheby's auction house. It was a warm-up jacket worn by NBA legend Wilt Chamberlain at least 3 times, including during the 1972 NBA Finals, in which the Lakers would go on to win. They beat the Knicks in that finals. And Chamberlain was also named the series MVP. Is that not insane?
So I have some audio. What's the audio here?
So this is Quinn Brown explaining basically how he came to figure out or get an idea. Hey, this really could have belonged to Wilt Chamberlain.
And worth something. Yeah.
Key moment for me was I was in my room and I looked at the measurements of the jacket. Wilt Chamberlain being 7'1". The jacket measured 33 inches long, so would have gone down almost to my knees. I looked at it, and it matched up.
That's crazy. That's really cool. So how much did he sell it for?
So I'll get to that here in a second. He was quoted saying, "This is truly a once-in-a-lifetime find. I'm so grateful this jacket landed in my hands." He's been reselling his thrift store clothing finds online for the past 3 years, and when he saw someone tossed the short-sleeved Lakers jacket with Chamberlain on the back into a bin of clothes outside Goodwill, he grabbed it very quickly. Fast forward several months, and he sold this for $89,600.
That's nuts.
Is that not an awesome story?
Yeah.
That's like a
For
holy
him,
grail.
it is.
Yeah.
Fred, that could be your dream, going to all these.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And maybe if you're he's a Portland kid. It's not like this was a Lakers fan necessarily. I wonder if I found the equivalent of that. If I found like an old like Stan Musial worn something. I wonder how tempted I'd be to just keep it. Like that's a lot of money. But also, like, randomly having that story and holding on to that item would be pretty cool.
There's a number for everyone.
You're right.
Everyone's
You're
got
right.
a number. Okay?
You're right.
I don't know if it would be, whatever. $90,000 for a
$90,000
jacket
a lot
at
of
Goodwill.
money.
That's a pretty good payday.
Yeah, no
for
kidding.
That kid.
That-
Now, I'd like to know, does it say anything in the story? Because I shared this one with you earlier and I didn't read it. Does it say anything about knowing how that would have happened, how that jacket got into Goodwill, or that's going to remain a mystery probably?
That part I don't see anywhere. But we'll have to do a little bit more digging into that
There's
because
gotta be a
that's
story
an
to
awesome
it.
story.
Yeah, it
and I'm
is.
sure that, to end up in a Goodwill bin, I'm sure it had quite the travel, that jacket, over, 50 years? Over 50 years.
I mean, who
so
knows?
pretty
Maybe
cool
he gave
story.
it to a kid at some point, and he had multiple jackets like that, and then they got donated to Goodwill.
It's a huge jacket.
Well, I know.
Somewhere along the line, someone missed the part where it belonged to one of the greatest basketball players of all time. But it's fine. It's fine. It's fine for that kid, certainly, and his $90,000 in his bank account now. Remember when the government shut down production of the penny? This wasn't that long ago because they cost more than a penny to produce. And some people wondered why we hadn't done it sooner. Well, it opens a can of worms. Paying in cash without regular access to pennies for some people has been confusing, and some businesses have been rounding to the nearest nickel when giving change, but that doesn't work necessarily everywhere. Some states have existing laws that require exact change or don't allow businesses to charge more or less to some customers than others, even if it's just a couple of pennies lost to rounding, and that has led to legal issues. So now Congress is working to pass a bill called the Common Sense Act. Get it? Anyone?
I see what you did there. Yeah.
Which will hopefully relieve some of these problems. This would allow all businesses the option to round cash transactions to the nearest nickel. For example, a $19.82 purchase would become $19.80, while 83 cents would become 85 cents. Canada did this also, by the way, when it phased out its penny over a decade ago. I didn't realize Canada had it gone so long. The bill could also force a change to nickels, which are even more expensive to produce than pennies. Last year, it cost almost 14 cents to make every nickel. And so the government is looking for cheaper ways to make them, but that also causes problems because they need to be able to be recognized in vending and counting machines. Or
I don't know where,
all
it's
that.
going to
So
be very
it's a
interesting
little bit
to see.
messy.
But I'd like to know where this is heading. And, eventually, look, I mentioned this. I've been in Europe the last 4 years twice. And they're so good over there at tapping. Like, you tap for everything. And it's so efficient and so quick. And we don't have that here. You got to tap. You got to put your PIN number. You got to do this. So we're going to be cashless, eventually, before you know it. So all this stuff is going to change in the near future. And you're hard pressed to convince me, Ethan, that when you're my age, Fred's age, you're going to be paying anything in cash, right?
I'm tapping a lot more.
Yeah, even now, I pay cash. I take cash when I go on vacation. Maybe I'll take a little bit. But outside of that, I don't really use cash.
The main thing I need it for is tips.
Yeah,
tips
that's
at
a
the
good
car
point.
wash
Yep.
or places like that.
Which, like I guess the no tax on tips thing, like that's not as big of a deal now. But I used to intentionally pay tip in cash because of that reason, so they didn't have to claim it or whatever.
But the thing about that is, I think these kids who depend on tips, they're getting far less because we don't have as much cash. I feel badly when I don't have the cash to tip sometimes.
Yeah, it's a good point. All right, birthday time. Selena Gomez is 34 years old today. The Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, 61 years old. David Spade is 62. Willem Dafoe is 71 years old. It's crazy he had that
I love
performance
him.
just a couple of years ago in Spider-Man at the age
he's
he
so
was. Don Henley of the Eagles, 79 today. Alex Trebek, it would have been his 86th birthday. And then it's random fact time, isn't it? Man, that's a shame. I had so many good on this days. Okay, random fact time. Horses cannot vomit, and neither can many rodents, including rats.
Neither can bunnies, by the way.
That's a win for you.
Yep, I know that. For Oreo cannot do that. Like you got pellets that come out the other end, but no vomiting. We say thank you. Ethan's News in the books.
I'm Dan Loney with Your Money Now. Shares of Super Microcomputer were up 19% today after the server maker said Tuesday that it expects higher margins for the June quarter than previously expected, and that is tied to a surge in new orders, including work for SpaceX and xAI. Amazon eliminated jobs in its artificial general intelligence unit on Wednesday. There is no disclosure as to how many jobs were cut, but it does come 6 months after the e-commerce giant trimmed 16,000 corporate roles across the company back in January. Nike is planning to cut off thousands of online distributors in China and restructure its online presence to create a more consistent consumer experience. Beginning in January, the company will concentrate on online sales through its own website and app. Wall Street pulled back a bit in a tight trading day. The Dow was off 6 points at 52,218. NASDAQ lost 146. S&P 500 was down by 10. That's your money now.
The board recommends approving.
Regarding that seat on the committee, we're promoting.
To boost quarterly earnings.
Every day, shareholders meet to discuss important matters about the companies you invest in. Now you can easily make your voice heard. Vanguard Investor Choice gives you a say in the companies you invest in. With just a few taps, you can set your proxy voting preference for your index funds. Visit Vanguard.com/investorchoice to learn more. Vanguard investors own shares of our index funds, which own shares of the companies they invest in. Available for Vanguard index funds that participate in Investor Choice. Vanguard Marketing Corporation distributor.
Drip Drop is doctor-developed, proven fast hydration that helps your body and mind work better. Trusted by firefighters, medical professionals, and over 90% of top college and pro sports teams, Drip Drop is engineered to hydrate faster and more effectively than water alone, with 3 times the electrolytes of leading sports drinks. Stock up now at dripdrop.com and use promo code RADIO20 for 20% off your first order. That's dripdrop.com, promo code RADIO20 for 20% off your first order. Head to dripdrop.com now and use promo code RADIO20.
Looking for a smarter, safer way to invest? For a limited time, lock in a great rate with Together Credit Union's 11-month CD special. From day one, your return on investment is guaranteed. No market swings, no surprises. Just a competitive, fixed rate that steadily grows your deposit. Make your money work harder with a financial partner that puts you first. Visit a Together Credit Union branch near you or go online to togethercu.org to learn more. Together Credit Union. Federally insured by NCUA.
Well, one of the things that I do to fill nutritional gaps, I take Neovite vitamins. One of the reasons that I do that is because it's a great vitamin, but also because it's a local company. This is physician formulated. It was Dr. Ken Rabicki who came up with this originally when he was going through some life changes and approaching 50. So he created Neovite to have all the good stuff involved to give you energy, to make sure that you're getting all the vitamins and minerals that you really need just to support your daily nutrition. If we're being honest, most people don't have perfect situations when they eat. I like to cheat a lot. I love sugar. Neovite kind of fills in the gaps, and there's a variety of ways to buy Neovite vitamins. Again, it's a local company. Some of the money goes to cancer research. You can buy these at Schnucks and other stores. In fact, if you go on to neovitin.com, it's very simple. It's Neovitin. There's a store locator. So, let's see here. I'm going to put in my 63049 and just see where that takes me. I order online, so I don't have to worry about this. But when you enter that in, I find out that the Schnucks at Dillon Plaza in High Ridge has it, and also the Schnucks at Gravois Bluffs. So I can find Neovite there. But here's the deal. You save money when you order online, or you order in bulk, or you get a subscription. So if you go to neovitin.com, get signed up today, and save yourself some money. You can cancel or pause at any time. Get started at neovitin.com.
Meet Linda. She's stuck in traffic with hundreds of thoughts racing through her mind, like what she needs to pack for her family's vacation and what they still need from the store. But you know what she's not thinking about? Her HVAC system. Linda is a preferred partner with Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Installation. Members of our preferred partner plan get 2 HVAC system checks per year. We clean and inspect your AC and furnace at each visit. Partners also get priority service and exclusive discounts starting at just $19 per month. Life is chaos, but with Air Comfort Service, you'll have peace of mind with your HVAC system. Visit aircomfortservice.com.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
And this portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly, heating, air conditioning, electrical, and plumbing.
25 years strong. 97.1 FM Talk. St. Louis Conservative.
Well, we've been talking about a lot of these issues now for months, and Election Day is almost upon us. In fact, maybe you voted already because the no-excuse voting started on Tuesday. The primary ballot on August, I think it's August 4th, right? It's 2 weeks from yesterday is going to be filled with candidates, but also amendments. And depending on which ballot you pick, it really doesn't matter. You'll still get the constitutional amendments. The big one that we are focusing on, and I'm supporting, people ask me all the time, I've even had some friends reach out recently, how are you voting on 4 and 5? Well, I'm voting yes on both 4 and 5. I have reasons. I guess I would say on the phase out of the income tax, I don't buy into the Chicken Little sky is falling narrative from the people who don't like this. And I can see where there's some criticism that's warranted or legitimate, but I think this is an opportunity to change tax policy in Missouri where we might not have that opportunity again, which is why I support it. Now, I have some business owners, some clients out there, they're nervous about what might happen. Did the legislature kind of put the cart before the horse? All legitimate questions. Brenda Talent is here, executive director of the Show Me Institute, who supports the amendment on the ballot. Brenda, how are you? Good afternoon. Glad to have you back.
Good to be here.
So there's a couple things here, just because I'm wondering if some of this is moot, and I hope it's not, because I just feel like there's so much opposition to this. And by the way, not only on the left, there's a lot of opposition on the right. There's a lot of people listening to me right now who have reached out who do not like, this particular ballot amendment. And I'm confused by the opposition. I think a lot of it is because they're not thinking through this a little bit, but some of it might be the legislature's fault for not explaining some of this ahead of time too. So your thoughts on where this is, and maybe just explain to people what this does, because it doesn't eliminate it right away. There's a phase out that's involved.
Right. I mean, when you look at the actual amendment itself, first of all, I would say everyone calm down. This is
right.
The first phase of it is the only thing that actually has a requirement in it. It would require the legislature to set revenue triggers to reduce the income tax. Okay, so that is something that Amendment 5 directs the legislature to do. Then it pivots and does one other thing. It gives the legislature authority for a period of 5 years to consider whether they want to either broaden the sales tax base, eliminate exemptions. I mean, you can sort of go down the list here. But if they do any of that, whatever revenue that generates must be redirected into accelerating the reduction of the income tax rate. So we're not going the Kansas route. This is a very well thought out, purposeful plan where one balances the other. It even recognizes the fact that if there are changes in our hundreds of exemptions for sales taxes, for example, because it follows through that local or municipalities would see an increased revenue, that they too must then reduce taxes for individuals. So it is meant to ensure that we're not growing government, but that we're actually reducing the taxes on work. So that's how the amendment would work. So when people say to me, and I've seen these, I call them these doomsday prediction, your sales tax rate is going to go to 10%, or, they're going to be taxing everything. No, there's no requirement of that. It does allow the legislature to look at that. And by the way, I don't know if you've noticed this, Mark, but I've noticed that our elected officials are very concerned about what their constituents think. And they really don't go down a road which would make them unpopular.
Right. I mean, that's the part. Well, you said that's such an important part of this equation that I think people forget. And you have a supermajority of Republicans. Now, look, Republicans sometimes raise taxes too, but the doomsayers act like, here's my favorite. There was, and the realtors have come out hard against this, which I don't really understand because the governor's kind of made clear that real estate wouldn't be affected. But that doesn't stop people. There was an agent. I didn't know her. She was from Jeff City. And, I've seen this blanket statement made by other people. The cost of a $300,000 house is going to increase by $43,000. So my response on her Facebook post was, I will bet you $43,000 that never happens, because that will never happen. I mean, it's idiotic to think that people in that price range for homes, that a politician is going to vote to tax you at that rate. It's impossible. Even Democrats probably wouldn't do that, and they love taxes. So some of this stuff is just nonsense. But from my perspective, what happened here is the legislature, without making more of the carve-outs and, at least explaining that better to people what might happen, I think they put themselves in a position where this thing is going to fail. And again, I hope it's not, but the scare tactics appear to be working. And what the main scare tactic, Brenda, as you know, is it would cut taxes for the rich and raise taxes on seniors in the middle class. So let's talk about seniors, because there are a fair amount of people who are, in the older portion of the listening audience that have expressed concern about this. So what would your answer be on Amendment 5 relating to seniors?
Well, again, I would say that you're being, first of all, again, it's fear-mongering in this sense that we have a number of carve-outs in our sales tax laws to ensure that, food is not being taxed at an exorbitant rate, that what I would call the essentials are not being taxed or are being taxed at a lower rate. I do not think an elected official would risk their seat to suddenly begin taxing that. The things that I think are more likely to be on the table are some exemptions where we have special interest carve-outs for special interest groups. I also think you're more likely to see services. For example, if you want to get a facelift, Mark, they might decide that they're going to tax that service. Or if you're an accountant giving, basically planning advice, which are the wealthy take advantage of, you might see that being taxed. Or if you're a lobbyist, so again, you have special interest groups that are hiring you, you might see. But there's no guarantee that it will be, because all of these different groups, by the way, do have special interests that are out there lobbying for them. So I just think that concern about what's going to happen is really overstated. But here's the other thing. Because of the way it feeds into municipalities and localities, which, by the way, they're the ones imposing the property taxes on seniors. And yes, we have a freeze, but there's still a property tax, that if they see increased revenues, they've got to plug those increases back into tax reduction. And that could be seen in our property taxes. So seniors might actually benefit from this amendment.
Brenda Talent is here from the Show Me Institute. One of the goals here from Governor Kehoe, and by the way, he's going to be on the show on Friday, so I'll ask him some of these questions as well, is look, we've been, not in the top tier when it comes to economic growth, exactly the opposite. So you look at states like Tennessee, like Florida, others that don't have an income tax, you see growth. What the opponents will say, and some of this I get, we're not Nashville, right? We don't have all these tourists and country music. We are not Florida. We don't have Disney World. We don't have people going to the beach all the time. So how is this even going to help Missouri when those states are very different, and this is going to create holes in all these budget issues to make up the revenue?
I think I saw a statistic, Mark, where basically all of our neighboring states, except a couple of them, are on the road to reduce their income taxes because they recognize they're in competition with other states. So if we have Arkansas, Iowa, Oklahoma, those states are taking steps to reduce the tax on work, then we've got to be competitive too. And here's the other thing I would say is, let's think about our kids. We have basically a situation where we have more out-migration from our population. We're losing our kids to other states. Do we want them to stay here? We've got to compete economically. And when you have an economy where you can work remotely, it isn't that important that I actually, be in the state of Missouri to work here. I can be in Florida and do work for a Missouri company. So we've got to sort of face reality, and these statistics about us performing poorly economically are very important. We can't continue to just be satisfied being in the bottom 10. We've seen what's happened to the city of St. Louis. It used to have how many people, and now it has just under 300,000.
Yeah, and I've lived back in St. Louis for 20 years, and I've seen that go down, each and every year. The other topic, Brenda, that comes up here, and the opponents out there like to compare this to Kansas in the situation, because Kansas did something similar, and then they had a big, fiscal hole. But this is different than what they did, isn't it?
Yes, because we're balancing both sides of the ledger. Kansas didn't. They reduced their income tax, but they didn't get their spending under control. And I would add this. Missouri does have a spending problem. It's not a revenue problem. And the other thing I really think that is very important to remember is that we've got in place within this amendment a lot of protections to ensure there is no hole in Missouri's budget. At the same time, there's nothing wrong with us saying to our state government, it's time for you to quit spending as much money as you've been spending, because we've almost doubled the budget in the last, 6 years? It's incredible how we've grown the budget.
I've watched it just explode. A lot of that is Medicaid, right?
It's Medicaid, but it's a lot of other things that we've put in place, which I would argue government has no business being in.
Well, I would argue that, too. We would agree on that. Brenda Talent, I appreciate you coming on here this afternoon. We're going to see what happens in a couple of weeks. Again, I just hope people kind of take a look at it and examine it. I just feel like the scare tactics, unfortunately, from the other side have worked a little bit here. But keep on pushing on, Brenda. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on this afternoon.
I would just say showmeinstitute.org. We have a facts and questions sheet on it so you can get the real facts.
Yeah, it's a great website. Thank you, Brenda. Take care.
You.
Yeah, go to the showmeinstitute.org website because, I've mentioned that before. They're a great resource for us. Brenda's always great. And they do have, position papers up there. They focus a lot on education. But on this, if you want to get educated, and maybe you're not going to be for it after you're educated, but I do want people to kind of look at this from a broader perspective because a lot of the stuff out there, look, I have a guy who's an old friend of mine, Scott Charton. We do not see eye to eye. He's someone that used to be a reporter, allegedly unbiased for the Associated Press, and he's on his anti-Amendment 5 tour right now, putting all these lies out about it because he's getting paid for it. The consultants are making money on both sides of this right now. In the effort of full disclosure, Rex Singfield, who is behind the Show Me Institute, is someone who's a big fan of this, reducing and phasing out the income tax. Same thing here in the city of St. Louis, where we need to be, Kara's not talking about getting rid of the earnings tax. The 1% earnings tax is ridiculous in the city of St. Louis. And the Slay administration, this goes back a while, they talked about phasing it out. Same thing happened. All the Chicken Little sky is falling. We can't support the firefighters, blah, blah, blah. Well, in any scenario, the same thing was going to happen. It was going to be phased out. It wasn't going to happen automatically. But the scare tactics took over. And now we may never get rid of that thing.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
And things are starting to clear up a bit anyway on 70 westbound as you make your way over the river to Cave Springs. We had an earlier crash there. Otherwise, we've got 64 delays going westbound from Kings Highway out to Big Bend, and then again around 270 and through Chesterfield. On the eastbound side, you're heavy Mason to 270, and then again pockets that go from Lindbergh over to Big Bend. 270, your normal stuff north and southbound. You're going to find your typical stuff on 170 southbound as well from, it looks like from about Forest Park Parkway down to 64 is pretty heavy. Northbound side hits the brakes around 70 up to the airport exit. I'm Trent Erickson with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Get you registered for the next Retirement Advisory Group seminar that we have, and it's coming up very, very quickly. I cannot even believe that the year, I don't know about you, but I think the year is going by very, very quickly, and that's good maybe in some ways, but in some ways, I'd like it to slow down. For this next seminar, it's coming up on August 11th, which is 3 weeks from yesterday at the DoubleTree by Hilton. We used to do these in Plaza Frontenac. We've just moved a little further west. Same deal, though. These are free events. They're open to you just for registration, so there's no payment involved here. We just have to save a space so we know how many chairs to save that night at the DoubleTree, which is right off of Swingley Ridge Road. Very convenient location. The team from the Retirement Advisory Group, Bob and Tammy Kershaw, they will take great care of you that night. Mark and Annie and I will all be there. We'll introduce the team. They take it over, and they're going to talk you through pursuing the retirement of your dreams and doing it in a way that you might be not used to, and that's locking in your gains, safely linking to the market, helping you guard your golden years and helping you get a path where you're comfortable and it takes the stress out of your life. A lot of people put this off too long. If you're 59 and a half in particular, you can take that 401k and roll it into something that's going to save you a lot of money with taxes. And then, if you're skeptical about some of the things that they say at the Retirement Advisory Group, like they haven't lost a client a penny of their principal, ask them that question. That's a great opportunity that night to do that. So get registered. We just need to know you're coming. It's August 11th, 6:30 p.m., 993-9494, retirementkey.com.
Mark Cox here. Don't be fooled by those deceptive ads you're hearing on Missouri Amendments 4 and 5. Get the truth. I'll explain all of the amendments and key local races. Download my August voter guide at 971talk.com.
Hi, this is Steve Butts from the Crawford Butts Insurance Agency. In 2026, our agency celebrates a momentous occasion as we celebrate 65 years of service to our clients, a tribute to our founder and my dad, Nor Butts. Our staff is ready to assist you with all your insurance needs. So please call me, Steve Butts, at 314-752-2500 or at crawfordbutts.com. For auto, home, and commercial insurance needs, that's crawfordbutts.com.
License number GL250000615.
You're cooking dinner. The lights go out. You flip the breaker and forget about it.
But what if it keeps tripping?
Trips once, your breaker's doing its job. Keeps tripping? That's a warning. Bad wiring or something worse.
Do people just keep flipping it?
Most do, until they can't anymore.
Call Grasser. We'll stop the trip.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeservices.com.
The radical left let crime and drugs pour into our nation, and they let biological men into girls' sports. But here in Missouri, if there's a problem, we fix it. That's why Ann Wagner's fixing the mess the radical left made and delivering for us. Wagner voted to ban biological men from competing in girls' sports, and she voted to fund the police and provide more resources for Border Patrol agents, keeping our families, communities, and children safe. And Ann Wagner didn't stop there. In Congress, Wagner passed the largest working-class tax cut in American history, kept big government out of our business, protected our way of life, and ensured our communities remain safe. That's why Ann Wagner's endorsed by the Missouri Farm Bureau and Missouri Fraternal Order of Police. Vote Ann Wagner for Congress on August 4th.
I'm Ann Wagner, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Ann Wagner for Congress.
Want to make the most of your tax refund? File with TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They help you get your biggest refund, and then we help you do more with it with a personalized plan designed to help you hit your money goals. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
The Mark Reardon Show is St. Louis conservative.
Well, this is one of those stories I'm going to share here, and maybe it's good that Sue's not here because she would be sad, and it is a little bit of a sad story, but let me explain what happened. And this kind of comes on the heels of a very similar situation in Arizona last week where a bear, and I don't know what is it about bears climbing up utility poles, but it happened last week in Arizona, and a lineman got there to rescue the bear, and the bear was all right. So in New Mexico, this is today. I don't know what city this was in New Mexico, but there are people that are on the road and they find out that there's a bear on top of, a utility pole, like climbing on top of the pole. And by the way, this is a big bear. It's not a tiny bear. It's a big black bear.
No, I'm on Highway 56.
Are you calling about a bear?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, it's on the power pole.
Yeah, it's alive.
Yes. Just leave it be.
Okay.
And because I already called the Game and Fish, and they said there's nothing that they could do. They could go and shoot it, tranquilize it to get it down, but it's gonna end up. If they do that, then it's gonna fall and could hurt itself. So they told me that.
So that cuts off there, but unfortunately, in this story, the bear did not make it. Apparently, it was electrocuted, and what they're saying is, and this has become a little bit of a controversy in this portion of New Mexico because, and Fred, part of it is understandable because what she said there on the 911 call, if they hit him with a tranquilizer, he falls and he probably doesn't make it. This is way up high.
It was way up high.
Right. Now, when I was, James O'Sullivan, who was helping produce, we were watching this earlier, and his question is the first question, why wasn't the bear electrocuted? Well, apparently it was, and that's what happened. But what they said was, and again, I don't know what you can do about this. They're blaming the Game and Fish Department in New Mexico. So what happened is that people wouldn't stop taking pictures, and the bear was freaked out. So they didn't respond because they didn't think that they could shoot the bear with the tranquilizer. The power company was headed out to shut off the power, but didn't make it in time. And now they're blaming the tourists for taking pictures, which is kind of interesting. And the bear was up there for more than 30 minutes. So I don't know. The other question is, why. And this, I don't know if you heard me because you walked into the studio late, but this happened in Arizona last week as well. So, I've seen bears climb up trees and things like that. There's plenty of videos out there with deer hunters who are in a deer stand and all of a sudden a bear comes up upon them. But usually they're going for something like food. Like I don't know what would have motivated that bear to go up to the top of this utility pole.
It looked like AI.
It did. I had to vet it. I had to make sure it was real.
It wasn't up a tree. It was a telephone pole at the top.
Yeah, it was weird. And again, that was the first thing that I decided to do was say, okay, is this real? And the person that originally posted about it, you heard, by the way, I don't know if you noticed this. I only noticed it on like the fourth listen there. There's a little Pink Floyd playing in the background they were listening to on the radio. But, I don't get it. I don't get why the bear would even go to the top of the telephone pole. Because again, this was a ginormous bear. And by the way, I get if the tourists had something to do with this spook and the bear, it'd be pretty hard, just being honest, to drive by this thing and not take a picture because you just don't see it very often. But I think it was just kind of a combination of circumstances that did not turn out very well for the bear, which is kind of sad. Fred, I just got some good news. I'm going to share this with you live.
Good.
So I have, we brought a new kitten into the house a few weeks ago, and my oldest cat, Coco, has not been doing very well with the kitten, very stressed. This happens sometimes. You have to be kind of careful with the other animals. And there's a process, and, my wife and I have done this for a long time with what we call the Reardon Zoo. So Coco was really not eating, and her behavior was really changed, and she was going outside a lot, which she doesn't do. So I took her to the vet yesterday, and they did blood work because they were concerned. I think they were concerned that something was happening with the liver. And this is funny. I don't know if I told you this. I joked with the vet at Hope Animal Hospital, by the way. I love Dr. Beiswinger is her name. I love this vet. We've gone to them now for a couple of years because of Oreo, because they specialize in rabbits as well. But I said, hey, can you get him some, get her, sorry, I just misgendered her. Can you get her some, like, kitty Xanax? Well, apparently they have that. Like, there's anti-anxiety medicine. So that's what they're going to prescribe. And there's some natural stuff out there that you can use as well. But I guess she's just stressed. So we're just going to have to keep her.
So the test came back okay?
Well, yeah. So the blood work's fine. But I was told from Alexa, my daughter, she was eating a little bit more today. I've actually thought she was a little bit better in the last couple of days. But, she lost like 3 pounds, which.
And how much did she weigh to start?
Well, she weighed 13. And if I'm being honest, as the cat owner, she needed to drop a couple of pounds. She's always been a little overweight. But not this way, unfortunately, and I just hope that she's okay. It's just weird, Fred. You make these predictions. I had predicted that the kitten and my male cat Dash would be the ones that wouldn't get along. Oh, my God, they're rolling around and wrestling and having the best time in the world. I would have predicted that she was going to be the best because she's kind of like a little bit of a caretaker with the other animals, and she's really good with the bunny, too. And it was just the exact opposite. She did not like that new kitten, so we're going to work through it, and hopefully it's going to be okay.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Well, you've got your delays out there. If you're headed on 64 westbound coming out of downtown to about Big Bend, you're going to see delays. And then again from Lindbergh to 270 or just beyond 270 through Chesterfield. And then you hit a wall at 70 because everybody's forced onto 70 there in the Wentzville area. And it's very heavy approaching because of road work in the region. On the eastbound side, you're slow going as you approach Bob Mason to 270. And then again from 170 to Big Bend. On 55 southbound through the work zone, you're pretty heavy. And 270 southbound is slow going from Olive on down to about 44. This report is sponsored by Baron Mere Glass and Door. We would like to congratulate Baron Mere Glass and Door on their 50-year anniversary. You don't stay in business that long by not supplying quality products with outstanding service. The key is their experienced staff. Contact Baron Mere Glass and Door today and let them show you why 50 years is just a start. I'm Trent Erickson with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Men, if you're suffering from erectile dysfunction or PE, you're not alone. Most importantly, you don't have to live with it. Paramount Men's Medical Center restores men's sex lives in just one visit. Their painless breakthrough treatments eliminate ED and PE, even when Viagra and Cialis don't work. Here's Dr. Simovitz, specialist in men's health.
Paramount Men's Medical Center's painless breakthrough treatments eliminate ED and PE, regardless of age or medical history. 98% of patients see instant results right in the office.
Men are now lasting longer than they ever imagined. And the best part, at Paramount Men's Medical Center, your consultation and first treatment are free. Qualified patients even get their testosterone checked free. Call 314-887-4333. 314-887-4333. Take control of your sex life. Call now. 314-887-4333.
You work hard, follow the rules, and get absolutely slammed by taxes. Your paycheck taxed. Your property taxed. Everything you buy taxed. Missouri's tax system isn't broken, it's rigged against you. The lawyers and lobbyists working for big corporations and the super rich buried over 200 loopholes for themselves in our tax code. While they pay nothing on the services they use, working families are taxed over and over. It's no wonder they're lying about Amendment 5. Our corrupt tax system is rigged in their favor. They're getting a free ride on your back. Don't believe their lies. The truth is, Amendment 5 closes loopholes exploited by the super rich and slashes taxes paid by Missouri's working families, phasing out income taxes and cutting property taxes. They finally pay what they owe while you keep what you earn. Vote yes on Amendment 5. Paid for by Missouri Promise PAC.
For the last 33 years, you've discovered that at Banner Construction, we pride ourselves on quality craftsmanship. We believe the single most important decision homeowners must make when considering an exterior restoration project is who do you hire. At Banner, we provide well-engineered, meaningful, long-term solutions to transform your home into the pride of the neighborhood. Let us help you fall in love with your home all over again. Call or visit bannerconstruction.com and have a banner day.
When it comes to planning your retirement, there's a lot to think about. Portfolio management, tax planning, and retirement income just to get started. Steve All and his team at the All Financial Group focus on those things and more. Their goal is to help you achieve your goals. Call 636-230-8824 or online, yourmoneymattersstl.com.
Investment advisory products and services made available through Impact Partnership Wealth, LLC, IBW, a registered investment advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Steve All, NPN number 153-07419.
KFTK FM Florissant.
An Odyssey station.
Talking economic policy. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. That was one of the key themes of President Trump's speech during a speech in a key swing state.
The president put affordability in focus during an event in Marietta, Georgia.
2 years ago, our country was dead. And now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world, respected by everybody all over the world.
President Trump concedes energy prices are up as a result of military strikes against Iran, but says inflation is falling.
And this is despite this. It's going on. The stock market has hit 73 all-time highs since the election. Think of that.
The cost of living is the top issue for voters, according to Fox polling, and support for President Trump's handling of the economy has fallen 13 points since March.
Fox's Jared Halpern at the White House. On Iran, the president said they continue to get hit hard.
They want to make a deal, but I say they're not ready to make a deal. Because every time they make a deal, they want to change it and everything. They're not ready. They'll be ready very soon.
This coming even as the U.S. and Iran continue to exchange fire. The president traveled to Georgia after attending the dignified transfer of 4 soldiers killed last weekend in the Iran conflict.
I've been there many times before. This was in particular something very sad.
The president invited the family of Lieutenant Tyler Feehan, who was from Georgia, to travel back from Delaware there with him on Air Force One. By a vote of 216 to 214, all Democrats opposing, the House has adopted a $95 billion budget proposal that would fund the Iran conflict and other White House priorities. But Republicans were divided over the plan, conservatives expressing concerns because there's no spending cuts to offset the cost. Wall Street, the Dow lost 6 points, the Nasdaq minus 146. The S&P off 10. America's listening to Fox News.
Onyx, I keep having stomach issues. Please make me a doctor's appointment.
Okay, are you suffering from diarrhea, bloating, gas, or oily stools? If so, you may want to ask your doctor if it could actually be a problem with your pancreas, called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI.
My pancreas? How is EPI treated?
A prescription medicine like Creon, pancrelipase, is used to treat people who can't digest food normally because their pancreas doesn't make enough enzymes. Creon is the #1 prescribed treatment for EPI.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you are allergic to pork, or if you have gout gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and always with food. Do not chew capsules, as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon. You can learn more at 1-800-633-9110.
Before your appointment, visit creoninfo.com. That's CREON info.com.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation, weather.
Our weather's delightful for evening plans. Temperatures in the 70s, low humidity, partly cloudy skies, and we'll dip down to 62. Thursday, sunny and nice, spectacular again. 82 for the high, easy to take. Some clouds moving in. Thursday night, 66. Friday is unsettled, changeable sky with a mix of clouds and sunshine. Expect scattered thunderstorms anytime near 80. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
A little bit later in the hour, I'll have audio cut of the day. I can almost guarantee you there's going to be some audio from the hearing that took place the last couple of days about the Smithsonian. Charles Lipson's going to join us at the bottom of the hour, professor emeritus at the University of Chicago. But really, I kind of started the show with this Sophie Cunningham story because she's from Missouri. She's from Columbia. She played at Rockbridge High School and also Mizzou. I knew about her back when she was a star from Mizzou, but she's really blown up on the national stage. But now she's transphobic, is what we've discovered from an ESPN article. Jen Say back with us, founder and CEO of XXXY Athletics. Good to have you back. I've missed you. It's been a while. You got so busy, we lost you here for a while, Jen.
Yeah, I'm here. It's exciting what you described. I just want to say, obviously, I don't think she's transphobic, whatever that is, but I have known for a long time. She was on Team Sanity. She has been liking our videos from XXXY for a long time. So I feel very encouraged that she is now speaking boldly and clearly.
Well, yeah, because you and I have talked about this before in the sense that where is that current athlete that's playing in a sport that's willing to kind of, make her opinions known on this or his opinions known? And here comes Sophie Cunningham, right?
Yeah, and she's not just a current athlete. She's a star.
Yes.
Now, some might argue she's not a star player. We can set that aside. She is a star. She is, the queen of the meme with her pointing. She has gone viral a gazillion times. She's Caitlin Clark's defender. She's a tough chick. She's hot. She's funny. She's a star of the league, whether or not you think she's one of the best players. And by the way, I think she's got she's ranked 6th in the league this season for a 3-point percentage. So she's no.
Well, she's pretty good. Look, when she was on the Mercury, she scored a lot, and maybe her role's a little bit different now with Indianapolis. But look, she's not just a fly-by-night player. She really scored a lot, and she had a great career in the WNBA. My favorite. There's been so many tweets. I don't even know how I can pick a favorite, but this has got to be one of them that I saw yesterday because somebody says Sophie Cunningham is unafraid to be blatantly transphobic, and this is the quote that they put in the tweet. Quote, I want to protect young girls in a locker room or young girls in a sport who shouldn't have to go against biological men, unquote. And then this person says her own words in an ESPN article, as if that quote stands out somehow to any normal person as transphobic it's ridiculous that they think, and by the way, you probably read the whole piece. It's pretty good profile for an ESPN, and there's one paragraph that addresses this, and that's what everyone is freaking out about. But the way that the left and the pro-trans and the alphabet mafia, you would have thought that she said something about killing trans people or murdering them or something, the way they're reacting.
Well, we knew they'd react this way because any sort of semblance of sanity, any sort of semblance of, girls' sports should be for girls, which is just like a normal thing to say. We get the shrieks of transphobia. That post was from somebody called Roberta.
Yes,
I followed that one as well, who claims to be a women's basketball fan and journalist. I feel like the fog is lifting. And the facade is like cracking because, the responses to Roberta's post in the past, granted, there were people high-fiving her. I don't know what Roberta is, high-fiving. But a lot of people were like, oh, be quiet. Just go away. All she said was girls should have their own sports and spaces. That's it. So I feel like people are getting more comfortable. I don't know. Sophie's still the first currently competing pro athlete. Let's see if it causes a cascade. But I just feel like people are less afraid. I mean, there's a lot of things that have happened this year, right? We had the IOC ruling come out in January. We had SCOTUS just announced last month in June, upholding the constitutionality of state laws protecting women's sports. Just 2 days ago, we had the WTA, the Women's Tennis Association, that tour for pro female tennis players announced out of nowhere. None of us saw it coming that they were going to test for sex. And then 2 days later, we had Sophie. I just feel like there's a wave.
Yeah, good momentum. There's no doubt. The question I guess I would have is because most of the people I see out there that are complaining about her, like there's this guy out here, Yair Yigi. I mean, some of these names are ridiculous. WNBA can't claim to have a no space for hate and then suspend Sandy Brundello, who's one of the coaches, for her comments, but allow Sophie to be wildly transphobic in an ESPN article and skate away without consequences. The punishment must be equal. Regardless of what the coach said, that's kind of a different topic. To have someone suspended over the quote that we just talked about is utterly ridiculous. But my question would be, okay, you're going to have the crazy people out there that are going to say that. How will the rest of the people in the league respond to her? Because even like Brittany Griner, who went to prison in Russia, was her teammate on the Mercury and said nice things about her in that, piece that was in ESPN. I wonder if the tide turns with her on that because of this.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think she's coded as right wing. I think she, posts Bible verses. That's right coded, so I think everybody in the league has probably suspected all along. She already gets into all kinds of dust ups. She's Caitlin Clark's defender. I guess she's tough enough to go toe to toe. So she might get more, but the league is now, I feel like, under scrutiny, and the commissioner is under scrutiny for letting Caitlin Clark be attacked so blatantly. So I don't know. I mean, maybe the league is going to have to do something and not let all these players attack these two women just because they don't like their politics and their views. I mean, with Caitlin Clark, it has nothing to do with her politics. It's just because she's the darling of the league.
And she's white. I mean, there is that. So let me get your reaction to Megan Rapinoe, who says ridiculous things all the time, including this.
And so all of these things, like, yes, they're going after trans people in sports, and they're using this as a wedge issue because we love sports and, we don't want our little girls to be unsafe in sports. And it's like, unsafe from who? But okay. But now we're using this as like an overarching thing when really what we're attacking women. We're saying, if you look like this as a woman, you can play. If you look like this as a woman, there's a bill in Washington happening right now that's going to require all girls, just like full stop, to go through a sex test, an invasive, like, examining their genitals to see if they're a woman.
Yeah. And that has not worked out well historically for people to do that.
We know what that means. Black girls are going to get questioned more, and they're going to get questioned first. Who's doing the examination?
Also, who wants to subject themselves to that?
And so they're going to see a pullback. They don't like women in sports because it helps us with confidence and power. And
okay, I mean, I'm going to wrap it there. I don't even know how to start. I don't even know how to start with that because it's so ridiculous, right?
It is so dumb and so ridiculous on so many levels. I'm going to go backwards. There's no bill in Washington that would require all girls to have a coach look in their pants.
It's ridiculous.
There is no such bill. The only sex testing is happening right now at the highest level in sport, the Olympic level. Right now, I mean, there are some on my side that are advocating for it in school sports. I don't believe it's feasible. All you need is a doctor's note, an honest doctor's note.
Mm-hmm.
There is no targeting of black women. It's targeting men. The men competing in women's sports are the ones targeted.
That's right.
It is totally racist on her part to say that she thinks black women look more like men and are more masculine and therefore will be targeted. It's only the men that will be targeted. All of the girls, all of the women who are going to compete in the Olympics will get a one-time test for sex. It is not invasive. It is a cheek swab. It is far less invasive than the drug test that all of the athletes already undergo. So I don't know if she's stupid or lying. I don't care. Everything out of her mouth is false.
Yeah, it is. And she's kind of gotten that reputation. But, the thing that really annoys me, and she's annoyed me for a while, is the way that she just, you heard at the beginning of the bite, just callously disregards anything that maybe a parent of a young daughter, like I have an 11-year-old daughter who's playing volleyball right now, and she's getting better. She's actually at a camp right now, right? And, does she ever for a minute think about someone that might be sitting here in the Midwest or wherever that has a daughter playing and might be playing against a biological male? Now, they'll say, well, there's such limited cases that I don't care. I don't want there to be another case of that, right? That's what this is all about. And there's enough of this out there, just with Leah Thomas, to say this should not be allowed.
Would we say with performance-enhancing drugs, it's just the one guy. It's just Lance Armstrong. Let him go. You're being mean to people who take steroids and who juice. You're being mean to those people. No, one is too many. And young girls should not be made to share a locker room and a private space with a man. I think she's a true believer. I really do. I think she's a true believer that men who claim to be women are women. I think most people who are engaged in this dialogue are just spewing whatever they hear, but I think she actually believes it, but she doesn't care about you or your daughter. She only cares about these poor men who think they're women. And what we've been trying to do this whole time, as you know, at XXXY is just put the attention back on the girls because they deserve privacy and fairness. That's it. I'm not crying for these boys. They're taking advantage of these girls. They're invading their privacy. If they really had empathy for girls and women, they would grant us our privacy and they would go compete in men's.
Jen Say from XXXY Athletics, were you dialed in? I'm sure you were, to some of the nonsense that happened on Capitol Hill with the Smithsonian director of the Museum of American History when they got into some of the gender stuff on that?
How did I miss this? No.
How did you miss this? Oh, you got it. You got to go back. So
now.
the director, her name is Anthea Hartig, the National Museum of American History, and there have been people that have been testifying for 2 days in Washington about the wokeness at the Smithsonian, and one of the exhibits involved all this gender nonsense. And the excuse from the woman who runs it is, well, that was a temporary exhibit and it wasn't meant for children. And they're talking about chest binders and all this stuff. Oh, yeah, you got to look this up.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
Okay, I'll go check
It's
it out.
American History. Jen Say, thank you so
Terrific.
much. Great to hook up with you
Thank
again.
you.
All right, we'll see you.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Things are improving on 70. We had an earlier crash there westbound around Cave Springs. That's all gone. There's a slight delay in that area from 340 over to that area in Chesterfield on 64 at least still, and a slight delay still on 70 on the westbound side. Eastbound side of 64 is slow going from Mason on over to 270, and then again from Lindbergh over to about Big Bend. Your westbound side again slows through Chesterfield. Before that, even though coming out of downtown from Kings Highway over to Clayton is pretty heavy going as well. And 270 southbound slows from 64 on down to past Manchester, and then again from 44 to Gravois. I'm Trent Erickson with traffic. Wait, this report is brought. Nope, I'm Trent Erickson with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
It happens. We get confused. Sue gets confused every once in a while. So there was a great piece that was in the Free Press, the FP.com, that was written by a guy by the name of Jake Altman. And he says that he was in the DSA, the Democrat Socialists of America, for 10 years. And he's exposing what they really believe. I'll have that coming up next.
This is attorney Todd Nissenholtz of Kaufman Townsley. When you're seriously injured in a car accident, insurance adjusters are not on your side. They're known as insurance adjusters because they're always adjusting the settlement offers lower and lower. At Kaufman Townsley, we'll get your settlement higher and higher, the maximum money you deserve. How? Because we fight. No one deserves to be victimized twice, by the negligent driver and the insurance company. Call Kaufman Townsley at 314-777-7777.
If you like that comfortable setting to hang out where people know your name, check out Lit Cigar Lounge. My friends at Lit Cigar Lounge are fantastic. Brian and Dana and Andrew and Charlie and Nick and all of them down there are going to get to know you by name because it is a family-run business in the Chesterfield Valley and the district. They've got an extensive selection of bourbons and whiskeys and craft cocktails and some of the best hand-rolled cigars from around the world. Check them out at the district or go online to litstl.com. Mark Cox here. Join me, Annie Fry, and Mark Reardon, along with Bob and Tammy Kershaw of the Retirement Advisory Group, to learn how to create your worry-free retirement. We'll meet August 11th at the Doubletree Hotel in Chesterfield at 6:30. Here are Bob and Tammy with more.
Are you nearing retirement or already retired and wondering how to turn your 401k and IRA into a worry-free retirement? Would you like to learn the strategies that give you market growth but but protects you from market losses at the same time?
Would you like to get a free personalized retirement income plan? And did you also know if you're 59 and a half or older, you can roll over your company retirement plan tax-free to create a worry-free retirement. If you're 59 and a half or older, you cannot afford to miss this event.
Have a worry-free retirement. Join the official financial advisors of my show, Bob and Tammy Kershaw, at the DoubleTree Hotel in Chesterfield, Tuesday, August 11th at 6:30. Go to retirementkey.com. That's retirementkey.com.
When Donald Trump needs conservative votes to help pass his agenda for Missouri, Representative Trisha Burns never answers the call. Trisha Burns has missed 370 votes. Burns is bucking President Trump's priorities. Burns did not vote to stop DEI initiatives, prevent China from owning Missouri land, defund Planned Parenthood, and Burns did not vote to ban boys from girls' sports. Trisha Burns not showing up for Missouri and President Trump. Instead, Trisha Burns spends her time pulling pranks on the suicide prevention hotline. Yes, you heard that right. Trisha Burns lied to the police and staged a fake suicide emergency. She sent a series of messages to the hotline and said she, quote, had a gun to her head, end quote. When she got caught, she said there'd be no consequences because she's a politician. By August 4th, vote to show Trisha Burns that there are consequences to being bad at your job. Cut the Bullpack paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee.
Mark Reardon is St. Louis conservative.
Okay, well, I think we're all educated enough here, especially in St. Louis, to realize that BLM, when it was created in the aftermath of Mike Brown being shot appropriately by Darren Wilson because he was charging Darren Wilson, that Black Lives Matter was never about Black Lives Mattering. That was never about that. It was about Marxism, and it was exposed. And, I said this earlier in the show. I think that, when a lot of us were trying to expose BLM for doing their, Marxist indoctrination and, trying to make people believe that they stood for something maybe that they didn't believe in, that it was outrageous. And then some of the financials got exposed and all that. And I don't even know where that movement stands right now. But it's kind of morphed into, in a lot of the principles, can I even use that word, of what they stand for, sorry, my music's still going there, became part of the platform for the Democrat Socialists of America. Cori Bush is now endorsed by the Democrat Socialists of America. I saw Wesley Bell ad today where he's proudly stating that he's a progressive because Cori Bush is a progressive. So they really, I've said this and I kind of mean it now at this point. I hope she wins just because they're voting the same way, and we might as well have this stuff exposed in a way that people can understand how crazy some of it is. But one of the reasons I like the Free Press, and I talk about the FP a lot, is because they feature firsthand accounts of people who've gone through things. And Jamie Reed is the primary example of this. Jamie, 3.5 years ago, wrote this piece for the Free Press, not too long after Barry Weiss left the New York Times and kind of started the FP, when she went rogue. And she does this amazing opinion piece about what was happening here in St. Louis at WashU and Children's Hospital, and how you had kids that were no doubt severely mentally ill that were coming into the clinic, and the first instinct was to hop them up on hormones and do this gender-affirming care nonsense. Well, Jamie's piece changed that whole, trans alphabet mafia gender-affirming care nonsense movement. It changed it. It killed it. It helped kill it because that set off a lot of different things across the planet, not just here in this country. So, when it comes to some of this stuff, it's helpful to maybe know what really is at stake here and what these candidates are interested in. Now, I will say having Cori Bush, going back to Congress, and the people who are winning in New York and Colorado and, across the country right now, you get enough of them in there and they're going to make a difference, and they're going to push stuff down our throats in this country that we simply don't want to have happen. And Bill Maher made that very clear. I played that audio from earlier this week where he's not down with communist America. Maybe that will finally be the dividing line of common sense people who are Democrats. What few remain is that communist America is kind of that red line that we're not going to cross, pun intended. So here comes this guy, Jake Altman, who wrote this piece in the Free Press this week about the DSA. And he says candidates backed by the Democrat Socialists of America keep racking up primary victories, and skeptics and fans alike are struggling to determine what the organization actually believes. President Trump says they're communists. One prominent DSA member, Jacobin publisher Basara Sakura, says that they are a milquetoast organization seeking Scandinavian social democracy with no interest in violent revolution. Well, Jake says, I was a member of the DSA from the 2010s until 2022. During that time, I witnessed a rise in extremism, ranging from an eagerness to collaborate with Leninist groups to a growing animosity toward the U.S. and the West. My final departure was prompted by a DSA statement that attributed Russia's aggression against Ukraine to American imperialist expansionism. I'm not sure why that was the line that was crossed, because I think when you listen here and you find out a little bit more about what was at stake, you might say, wait, Jake, why didn't you pull out then? But he says, what do they stand for? Okay. An answer to that question arrived last week in the form of a new platform. Among the DSA's core aims are ending the presidency and the Supreme Court, abolishing prisons, universal free housing, the elimination of all debt. Okay, I might be down with that one, all right, for personal reasons. Closing all U.S. military bases overseas, lifting all sanctions from Cuba, Venezuela, and Iran, and a lot more. The platform is called Workers Deserve More. It's meant to present a friendlier face to the world and overcome the radical reputation that this organization has developed in many corners of the country and in the public. That makes it even more remarkable that, and this is true, I think, what he writes here, that the document is still so radical on its face. It advocates for the elimination of capitalism, okay? Not a thick layer of redistribution on top of the current economy. It prompts readers to imagine a world where the profit motive has been squelched out of existence. Now, some of you might remember that, and maybe I should just go and play this audio, even though I said I wasn't going to do it. But in the aftermath of the election, let me take you back to early December of 2024. So Trump had won a few weeks before that. I had a listener that reached out, and he said, Mark, you got to hear this. This is audio from a journalism class at the University of Missouri. It was a documentary film class. So it's Wednesday morning after Trump wins, and you're not going to believe what this professor says. So the guy shares it with me. He says, this is not my son who recorded this, but this father said, you know, people need to hear this, right? And shares it with this dude. The dude shares it with me and says, use it. Dad says, use it, right? I am pulling the audio, and I'm literally doing this in Fred's little production studio. And that morning, I had actually reached out to the dean of the journalism school. David Kerpius is his name. And I said, David, I didn't know him at the time. I do now. I said, David, you may want to listen to this audio from one of your professors because it is outrageous, okay? And one thing led to another. Dean Kerpius called me right away because he was panicked, and I have a theory on that now. But also what happened, and this happened like in a 20-minute time frame where Ethan was out there pulling this audio. I was ready to play it for you, the audience, and I was told that I shouldn't play it by the dad. The dad was freaking out because he didn't want his son identified and to have any, retribution. And that's understandable. The problem is that they were very aggressive in getting the audio to me, and I wanted to play it. Well, this brings back memories of the DSA, because what happened in this audio, and this is where I should just say F it and play it. I did play a portion of it, and I'll explain that in a second. But this professor goes on to say in like the first 60 seconds of his rant about Trump winning, and they're all sad and they're all triggered, and he's trying to coach the class through it. And obviously there's one kid recording it because he doesn't agree with this professor. But he literally says in the first 2 minutes of his rant, capitalism is stupid. All right, so look, it's such a mystery why we have kids that are coming out of colleges across the country that are brainwashed into thinking that communism and socialism is the way that the country should go. And look, one thing that I know for sure is that professor at Mizzou, I should play this audio, it wasn't the first time he said that. So when I finally met with David Kerpius, I went to Columbia. He was smart. He was trying to play a little PR cover-up game. And I now know that the reason he did that is because there was a big multi-million-dollar grant that was being donated to the documentary film program at the University of Missouri. And Dean Kerpius didn't want any. I like the guy. I got to know him a little bit. We went to a basketball game. But let me tell you, he was doing his job because he did not want negative publicity coming out about his communist professor, right? So I go to Columbia, and we had a conversation about this, which I think should have been a deeper conversation about idea, not just political ideology differences, or racial, diversity, but idea diversity, right? And he even said, he goes, look, I believe in idea diversity. Well, when I bring up the professor, he was very short with me, the dean was. He goes, well, that's been taken care of, and that won't happen again. And I didn't say this. I've said it since, and I'll say it here, is there's a couple things I know. I know that wasn't the first time that professor said things like that in the class, okay? To try to indoctrinate the class. And most of the class is right there because they're communists and socialists too. They believe in this stuff. They buy into it. So when you have professors at a state-run university, and the reason I wanted to expose this was because these are taxpayer dollars going to Mizzou, right? There are parents in this listening area that should know about this professor at Mizzou. Now, the only audio that I ended up playing from that was from one of his students because, and some of you might remember this, I should play it again because it's so outrageous. You literally had a young girl telling her horror story of being in Arkansas with her friend, and they were with their dog, and they were hiking and, camping and stuff like that, and the dog got a bunch of ticks on him. Her, I think it was a her. I don't want to misgender the dog here. So they were panicked, and they called the vet, and the vet up here says, like, go to a clinic. So they pull up to a vet clinic, and they are horrified because, in her words, there were pro-Trump and pro-Israel signs outside of the clinic. So they go in, they're horrified. What are we getting ourselves into? These people are awful. They go up to the front of the vet clinic in, this small town in Arkansas, and they show, the person at the front desk the ticks. And the woman says, listen to how mean this woman was at the vet clinic. It's unbelievable. She goes, oh, well, we don't even need to see you for that. That's just, seed ticks. Here, take this. Gives the girl some spray or whatever the hell it was. They walk out. You know what the takeaway was? Some of you heard this story. The takeaway from that young lady, that young indoctrinated communist in a documentary film class at my alma mater, Mizzou, where I am not a proud J School graduate because I'm embarrassed what much of the J School has become and what they're teaching, which is agenda journalism. It's just outrageous, right? But again, there's no consequences for anything like that. But this is why these kids are buying into this Democrat socialist nonsense. Jake's piece is outstanding, and it goes into great detail about what some of these people want to turn this country into. And there's momentum now. You got AOC, you got Bernie, you got Mamdani. There was a piece, I think it's in Rolling Stone today, and I was going through Instagram, and it's a profile on Mamdani. And, if you're on Instagram and you could look at, who presses like and stuff like that, like if you're on an account like Rolling Stone, which has a lot of followers, there's probably, let's say, 1,000 people pressed like on that tweet for the Mamdani story. Well, if you're following people, it'll show you right at the top of the post who liked that post, who you might also be following. So I noticed that I had a couple of my musician friends who are clearly, Marxists and communists at this point, liking, and these are New Yorkers, by the way, liking the profile of Mamdani. Now, these people that I'm referring to are around 30 years old. I'd say between 30 and 35. So they're not young people, but they buy into this stuff and they think it's real and they think that it can be the promises. And I don't think they understand that this is all about one thing. It's destroying Western civilization. It's destroying our way of life that we as Americans have been proud to be a part of for all these years. And we know that we have our flaws. That's why Bill Maher this week said, no, this is a red line for me. I'm not down with communist America. Well, this stuff is becoming more and more real. And it's getting exposed more and more, which is good. But, man, I got to think hard about that audio because I promised that I wouldn't play it. But at this point, I don't even think I care if I keep that promise because I think people need to hear it. So I may pull that out and still air it for people to hear. We'll see. I'll think about it. I'll noodle on that.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
You got problems on 64 on your westbound side, leaving downtown, getting a little easier from about Kings Highway over to Big Bend is slow going, and then through Chesterfield, of course, as always, and really heavy Lake St. Louis area into the Wentzville area at 70 because at 70 you're blocked. You need to go on to 70 from there. They're doing some construction in that area and some road rework. We've got 270 on your northbound side, just a little slow going from Page on up to 70, and the southbound side hits the brakes right around 64 down to past Manchester. Rochester, and then again from 44 to Gravois, and 55 southbound through that work zone a little bit slow too. This report is sponsored by Lakeside Renovation and Design. For over 25 years, Lakeside Renovation and Design has been St. Louis's trusted source for transforming homes inside and out. From windows and siding to kitchens, bathrooms, and outdoor spaces, they deliver quality craftsmanship backed by lifetime warranties. Visit lakesiderd.com to start your dream project today. I'm Trent Erickson with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
All right, amazing offer from Stewie at Stewart's American Mortgage, and this was a limited time offer in the month of June. We're almost at the end of the month of July, and the offer still stands, and it even got better. So the first offer was this. If you want to get off the sidelines, you want to purchase a home, he is offering you a 1% discount on your interest rate for the first year. So you lock in a 1% lower rate on a new 30-year loan, and you still get the bagel loan with no closing costs. So that's a great offer for people who want to buy a house. What about refis? Well, he's extended it. So here's the deal. If you go from an FHA to a conventional on a refi, he'll reduce the interest rate by 1% for the first year. And again, you get the bagel loan. And when you get the bagel loan, you pay no appraisal fees, no closing costs, no title fees, no broker fees. I will admit to you that when I used to hear Annie talk about Stewie, I'm like, wait a second, how can that be possible? And then I met Stewie, and he explains it to you, and it all makes sense, and it comes together. And he can do things that other lenders can't do. I'll give you a great example. He can close you in as little as 10 days. And if you buy a house and you make an offer and someone can't close for 30 days and that, seller wants to close quicker, you may have an advantage just because you're with Stewie. But now this is even a better offer for a refi, because if you need to access cash, you're worried you're sitting in a good interest rate. With this, you get a lower interest rate. You still get the bagel loan. It's all about saving money. And we're giving you his cell phone number. So all you have to do is call him. You can Google the bagel loan or call or text 314-324-4440. Stewart's American Mortgage, NMLS number 226715.
I'm Bill Hemmer, and these are the most impactful moments in American history. In 2001, the successful facade of one of America's most important energy companies was shattered. Enron long seemed to be untouchable. On the outside, you had soaring stocks and massive profits. But behind closed doors, a different story. Massive debt, false earnings, and shell companies. News of the scandal broke in October, and 2 months later, Enron filed for Chapter 11.
Something's leaking, and it's Enron, the largest buyer and seller of natural gas in the U.S., went bust,
making it the largest bankruptcy in American history at the time. In the aftermath, pensions dissolved, thousands lost their jobs, and shareholders lost billions.
America 250 on 97.1 FM Talk, sponsored by Paramount Men's Medical Center.
Bill, you're an old politician.
Yup, sure am.
So you know the old-timers warned that someone trying to sell you a pig in a poke was a con man.
Well, sure.
Well, no offense, Tom, but your Politicians Amendment 5 is a pig in a poke, allowing politicians to raise our taxes without a vote of the people, and the Politicians Amendment 4 takes away our power to do anything about it. Well, let's look at what's really inside Ford 5.
Oh, don't do that.
5 hits hardest seniors and those struggling financially with new taxes on services like doctor visits, in-home care, and rent. Sales taxes could more than triple. For up to 80% of Missourians, it's a tax hike. And Amendment 4 ends majority rule, allowing a minority of the most liberal statewide voters in one district to effectively end our power to stop corruption and out-of-control spending and taxing.
Slick plan, huh?
No, Tom. 4 and 5 are schemes that hurt citizens and transfer our power and our money to politicians and lobbyists. That's why I'm voting no on the Politicians Amendments 4 and 5, paid for by Missourians for fair governance.
Do you have any evergreens in your yard? It might be time for a health checkup. Mark Cox here for Hanson's Tree Service. My friend Chad Hanson tells me he's been seeing a lot of evergreens dying due to environmental issues from the last couple of years. A winter drought 2 years ago, combined by a very wet spring, is wreaking havoc on a lot of these evergreens. Let Hanson's Tree Service help. Call them today at 636-379-1830 or online at hansonstree.com.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. If you've been injured in a car accident, call America's largest injury law firm. For over 35 years, my mission has been to deliver more for our clients, to deliver more for you. If you or anyone in your family has been injured in a car accident, call us now, as the time to file a claim may be limited. Last year, more clients hired Morgan & Morgan than ever before, protecting America, fighting for you. Morgan & Morgan. Injured? Dial pound law.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Past results afford no guarantee of future results. Every case is different and must be judged
judged on its own merits.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
This portion of the show on a Wednesday afternoon sponsored by Jerry Kelly, heating, air conditioning, electrical, and plumbing.
250 years of capitalism, private ownership, and rugged individualism. America 250 on 97.1 FM Talk. Sponsored by Paramount Men's Medical Center.
You know, we went over this with Brenda Talent an hour ago from the Show Me Institute, but I'm just stunned by the amount, and this is political campaign season, so I know it happens on both sides, but the amount of lying that is occurring on the part of the people that oppose Amendment 5. I mean, it's one thing to be opposed to it and to have questions about it and to wonder. I think it's a completely legitimate complaint to say, okay, why didn't the Missouri legislature explain what might be, appropriate for carve-outs and what industries might face taxes? Because what it's allowed, the opponents to do is just lie and say everything's going to get taxed. When the governor's very clearly, and he'll be with us on Friday, said real estate's not going to be taxed, health care is not going to be taxed. I just heard a commercial. Health care is going to be taxed. They're going to tax everything. They're not going to tax everything, okay? And there are restrictions and limits. But if you're going to vote on this thing, and you're going to look at Amendment 4 and Amendment 5 in particular, I'm going to vote yes on both of them, at least educate yourself. I mean, dig in, look at both sides. Look at what one side's saying versus the other. Make an educated decision instead of listening to the scare tactics and the lies. Because the guy that's lying is Scott Charton, the guy that's running the campaign against Amendment 5. And I know Scott, and I would recommend Scott look into GLP-1s because I've seen his picture out there a couple of times recently. And he's lying blatantly to everyone around the state, and he's getting people to buy into it. So it's utterly ridiculous. And, just if you want to vote no, vote no. But at least vote no for the right reasons. I don't know what those would be because I'm going to come out ahead. If you look at your paycheck, you'll look at the tax that's being confiscated from your paycheck. And then add that up over the course of 12 months and say, can I really spend that much money and exceed the $7,000 that I'm paying to the state of Missouri in sales tax? Because it's mathematically impossible for that to happen for most people. So just keep that in mind. How about this announcement from Trump today?
Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's a special place, and I am here to announce my candidacy. I'm only kidding.
Ah, that was pretty good. Charles Lipson back with us from the University of Chicago. He had him there for a moment, didn't he, Charles? I love it when Trump toys with people like that. How are you this afternoon?
He really loves to pull everybody's chain, doesn't he?
Yes, and I think that was a prime example of that today in Georgia. By the way, let me start with this just because we're going to talk about the president. But What did you think about the speech from last week? I think we may have even talked beforehand. I don't think there was any, none of what he said last Thursday night stuck, did it? Nobody's talking about that this week. I mean, we could talk about the illegals that were registered in New Jersey, so there was something that sort of connects to his point about voter fraud, but it wasn't something that, set the world on fire when maybe he should have talked about Iran last Thursday. I don't know.
Well, I hate to say it, but I agree with you.
Yeah, I know. It's tough sometimes, isn't
but
it?
the speech of the week was Marco Rubio's last week. He was just terrific. He really was.
He's doing great on this.
Yeah.
Well, but, I mean, I think Marco's doing a great job. I'm wondering how many people are hearing what he has to say because I think he's kind of being put in the shadows when it comes to the legacy media coverage. But, all right, where are we, Charles Lipson, when it comes to this war with Iran? We got 11 days where, we've been firing back and forth. I can't, in my mind, I'd love someone to explain how it's possible that we can inflict more damage on Iran given the amount of military power that we have used on that country both last summer and now. But I guess they keep, staying alive, and the memo of understanding is completely a memo of misunderstanding. But we're not getting any closer to a conclusion. President Trump keeps saying the same things, Charles, like they can't have a nuclear weapon. All right, well, we knew that 5 months ago, but what are you going to do to stop that? Okay, you're going to bomb Pickaxe Mountain, right? Okay, when are you going to do that? So where are we on all this?
Well, it looks like both sides have painted themselves into a corner. When I look at it, Iran reminds me of the night in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, who gets his arms whacked off, his legs whacked off, and he still says, "You haven't defeated me."
Right. Yes.
The fact is, the U.S. has really two overriding strategic goals. One is to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. The other is to reopen the Straits of Hormuz. And they haven't reopened the strait. And the problem is, it's like having a small pebble in your shoe. You can get all the big pebbles out, but if you've still got one little pebble left, you can hardly walk. And that's the problem with these drones and so forth. It doesn't take much to prevent oil from coming out. And I think really the additional problem is that if you leave the regime intact, they will rebuild their nuclear capacity. They want to build missiles to prevent anybody from taking anything out, and yet the United States, for understandable reasons, doesn't want to get into the business of regime change. And the reason is that it's not only going to be hard to knock out this regime, which has been decentralized, so that individuals at the provincial level seem to have a lot of autonomy, but it will be hard to stand up a new regime that can control domestic life. So I think we're in a difficult position, but I think the Iranians are in a difficult position, and they're putting the Chinese, who are their main sponsors aside from the Russians, in a difficult position because China can't get any oil.
Yeah, well, that's where I think, we expect the pressure to really be applied and maybe result in something positive here. But look, we just had a dignified transfer ceremony this morning. There were 4 American soldiers that have been killed, more than 100 troops that have been injured. That's the kind of stuff. Now, look, we don't have boots on the ground. They're being, killed at bases outside of Iran. But those are the types of stories that are going to, accumulate in a way where you're going to lose a lot of support for this, even amongst people that might support you right now. Because I still think there's a lot of people that support President Trump that don't support this war. I don't support this war right now. I know a lot of people that are with me on that still are conservatives, and they still support President Trump on domestic policy or whatever else. I mean, my main thing on this, Charles, honestly, from the start is just I'm confused about why we can't finish the job and what the true goal is. And we've seemingly now gotten so far away from Bibi being a partner here, I wonder if he still is, that we're in Never Never Land, and that's where Quagmire comes into play.
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. It is very striking that Iran has been unwilling to strike at Israel this time. Israel has managed to secure deterrence. And I think the reason is that if you hit Israel, what they will come back with is killing the remaining leaders of the IRGC. They will have a very different target package from the Americans. Now, this could still happen. Trump has asked them not to go forward, but there's rising anti-Israel sentiment. In fact, that just showed up in the bill that passed the House today on refunding the military, in which some cooperation with Israel was stripped out of the bill. The Democrats were all voting against the bill anyway. It had nothing to do with Israel. They all voted against it. But there were enough Republicans, it didn't take many, only a few, and they were able to prevent that. So it's a difficult situation. My own hunch is that President Trump will probably need to escalate. And the reason is he'll need to finish whatever he wants to do so that he can show results before the November election. The closer it gets to the election, people will have made up their mind, and the Senate is in play. I mean, it is still likely that the Republicans will keep the Senate, but the Senate is in play. I've got to say, by the way, Missouri has great senators, and your newer senator is particularly good.
Yeah, Eric Schmidt's awesome. If you want to know the truth, Josh Hawley's kind of a jackass, but that's just a personal opinion that I have, and I think he votes on the right side. But
he told me that about you.
Yeah, well, you know what he should tell you about me if you ask him is that I helped. No, this is the truth. What he should tell you is that he was a Mizzou law professor who nobody knew until guys like me helped build his profile, and then because I asked a serious question about January 6th, he hasn't spoken to me since. So that's just a personal thing with Josh and I. Although I do support him on his issues.
Schmidt is really good.
He's great.
And he's a serious guy.
He's awesome.
Serious guy. If he weren't in the position he is now, he would have been a great attorney general.
Well, he would have, and I actually thought maybe he was going to get that nomination, but we want him here as the senator because he was our attorney general. Just one more question. I got to be quick on this, though. Some of the reporting today is that a large cargo ship bound for Saudi Arabia was turned back by the Houthis, and that's one of 7 ships that have reversed course because the Houthis have gotten involved. So why is that not something where we say that is unacceptable and we rain terror on the Houthis? Is it just because we can't find these people? We don't know where to target?
Well, no, I think that what you're likely to see is Saudi Arabia and probably Israel working with Saudi Arabia to take them out, but they're hidden in the mountains.
They're in Yemen, right?
They've been badly decimated. I'm just sorry we're not going to get to Mickey Mouse. I really am.
Well, you know what? Those hearings were.
I think that's the story of the day.
It is. And by the way, I've covered that extensively, that hearing with the Smithsonian director the last couple of days, and it might be featured here in Audio Cut of the Day. But Charles, I'm out of town. It's always great to have you on. I hope you're well. You have a great weekend, okay?
You too, my friend.
Take care. Audio Cut of the Day coming up.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
And things are still a little slow on 270 if you're headed southbound anyway, from Manchester on down to 44. Your northbound side hits the brakes past Page on up to 70. And then we've got 64 delays that go westbound coming out of downtown. Basically just the Kings Highway to Clayton is left over. And then again, when you hit the Lake St. Louis area, very heavy into the Wentzville area into 70 because you're blocked at 70. They're doing some road work in the area. And then you've got 170 southbound delays, Forest Park Parkway down to 64. And 55 is cleared up completely. I'm Trent Erickson with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
You know, summer's going by very, very quickly, and maybe you're someone out there that has not really had any kind of break with the family, any vacation. Then you're like, what do? I can't afford airfare right now. I got a great recommendation for you. That's Innsbruck, which is just about an hour away from St. Louis. It's right off I-70. It is a wonderful, wonderful place with hiking trails and ponds and lakes and golf course. And, you know, they have different places that you can either live in full-time or on the weekend. The A-frame chalets have always been popular. I remember even growing up here when I was a kid. In the 80s, there were people out there buying at Innsbruck, but now they've really, if you've not been out to Innsbruck in a while, they have the treehouse developments, which are just mind-blowing. They took a step up with what they call Sonnenhaus, which blends the treehouse with, you know, kind of the exterior that they have. And you can see all this at Innsbruck-resort.com. with a blend of interior elements of a cottage, and it's just one comfortable residence that can either be a vacation home or a permanent residence. If you go to Innsbruck-resort.com, you can look at the floor plans, view the lots, take a 3D tour. Now, I'm the type that does a staycation, so you can rent a property out at Innsbruck. We do dog-friendly, bring the dogs out there, have a great time. If it's in the fall or the spring when it's a little cooler, you might want a hot tub. Rent a golf cart. That's my recommendation. But Innsbruck is close, and it's not the headache that the Lake of the Ozarks is. So check Innsbruck out today. Innsbruck-resort.com.
Hey, it's Scott Jennings, and what does America mean to me here on our 250th birthday? The future of Western civilization. The future of human liberty. That is what is at stake in our world right now.
America 250 is sponsored by Paramount Men's Medical Center.
For State Senate, I like Mike. Mike Deering knows what a hard day's work looks like because he's done it his whole life.
I like Mike. He's a dad. He knows what our families are up against.
Mike Deering's a businessman. He knows what red tape actually costs.
I like Mike because Mike Deering stands with President Trump. Secure the border, cut our taxes, put Missouri first.
I'm Mike Deering. Career politicians spend more and tax more while your family gets squeezed. I'll lower your taxes, keep your money in your pockets, and cut government waste so deep it'll make the politicians squeal.
Mike Deering, farmer, small business owner, dad, conservative. I like Mike.
I like Mike.
I like Mike. For State Senate, I like Mike. Mike Deering. On Tuesday, August 4th,
Vote Republican Mike Deering for state Senate. Make common sense conservative leadership common again. Paid for by friends of Mike Deering. Megan Kaiser, Treasurer.
Rhino Shield is engineered to outlast paint by a lot, backed with our 25-year transferable warranty. Paint a house, shield a home. We do brick, block, stucco, asbestos, steel, aluminum, cedar, and more. We are the only coating company selected by Disney, This Old House, and 3 times on HGTV's Curb Appeal, where all 3 episodes concentrate on unpainted brick. If you maintain or own a business with a tired-looking building, you owe it to yourself to look at Rhino Shield and our beautifully durable color schemes. Evaluations are free. We're making buildings pop and be noticed again, from Champaign to the Lake of the Ozarks, exceeding expectations every day with our products, people, and performance. Now is the time to call 877-25-RHINO, 877-25-RHINO, or go to 877-25rhino.com and see how honest and transparent we really are. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Nothing makes a gathering great like Eggland's Best Eggs. They're just so delicious with better nutrition, too. For us, it's eggs any style, as long as they're the best. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
Mark Reardon, Sue Thomas. This is The Mark Reardon Show.
Well, I know we have Governor Kehoe set for Friday at 5 p.m. We'll be talking about some of the constitutional amendments on the ballot with the governor. We have a Reardon Roundtable set on Friday. Jeff Rainford will be here with David Barklage. All the fun stuff in the 4 o'clock hour with Paul Hall, with entertainment recommendations coming off the big weekend with the Odyssey. And Toy Story 5 is still making money out there. Frank Cusimano will be here Friday as well. Tomorrow, Brian Kilmeade in the 3 o'clock hour. I had Mike Gonzalez on earlier from Heritage, and that kind of ties in to this next segment.
Stand by. Playback ready.
Now, the audio cut of the day.
The Scott Jennings syndicated show airs at 8 o'clock on 97.1 FM Talk. You might hear Mike on that show. He was on Jennings' show today for about 20 minutes talking about the Smithsonian, the hearing that's been going on the last couple of days. Mike Gonzalez actually testified. He's been trying to out this woke nonsense at the Smithsonian for a long time now. And maybe we're having some success. So a couple of highlights. I'm not the biggest Nancy Mace fan these days, but she did pretty well in this hearing.
When you are dressing men up as women, drag queens, you're putting this kind of crap in front of kids, sexualizes them, and makes them more vulnerable to people that want to rape them or abuse them.
Girlhood, It's Complicated was not an exhibit designed for children.
Do you believe that men can become women?
Ma'am, as the director of the museum, that's not relevant in this case.
It's very relevant. You've got men dressed up as women, and you have them on displays in front of kids. Do you think men can become women, yes or no? What is a woman?
We strive to represent and not categorize.
Unbelievable. You have a Supreme Court justice and all these lefty witnesses who can't even define what a woman is. She's Mary Miller from Chicago, or not from Chicago, from Illinois. I don't like Mary that much. I think she's a little loopy, but she's good on this. See, there's commonality here.
You actually welcomed children to an exhibit with sexually explicit material. And so,
correct.
along
In that
those lines,
exhibit,
can you tell us what a
girlhood-
crotch harness is? We brought a picture. Tell the audience what a crotch harness is.
So, ma'am, if I may answer your question about Girlhood, It's Complicated.
So this is this was only a temporary exhibit. Girlhood, It's Complicated. Even though it wasn't targeting girls, it was just for adults, I guess.
And the questions that you had.
No, I'm moving on. What is a crotch harness? You chose to make a display of it.
Girlhood, It's Complicated was designed to help
you
celebrate
approved
the centennial.
the display of a crotch harness in a public museum. You chose to display the fetish attire of a very small subset of Americans with weird sexual proclivities, and you welcome children to these exhibits.
So,
Millions of
ma'am, if I
American
can answer
families
your
and
question?
school children visit your taxpayer-funded museum every year, coming to learn about the nation's history. They deserve a straightforward explanation for why they are being exposed to this kind of garbage.
Well, the director of the National Museum of American History at the Smithsonian, Anthea Hartig, did not fare very well these last couple of days, and it left most of us with one conclusion. She should be fired.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Hey, there's some delays if you're on 64 headed westbound Kings Highway to Clayton, and the eastbound side slows a bit between McKnight, essentially over to Big Bend. Southbound 170 into 64 is still heavy. And then westbound way out on 64, we've got delays around Lake St. Louis over to the Wentzville area because of construction. It's blocked at westbound 64 at 70, so you've got to go on to 70 from there because of the road work going on. I'm Trent Erickson with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk.
Brought to you by Capital One.
Capital One offers no fees or minimums on checking accounts, and Capital One cafes are open 7 days a week to assist with your banking needs. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bankguy. Capital One N.A. Member FDIC.
So I'm going to recommend something that is so easy for you because you're not locked in. There's no obligation whatsoever, but it is Freedom Month at Generator Supercenter of St. Louis. They are celebrating the semi-quincentennial by offering new sales and installation customers $2,500 off your purchase during the month of July. We're already at the 22nd today. So this is going to run out, but I would get on the horn with them tomorrow and say, look, I heard about this on 97.1 FM Talk. I'm interested in a very high quality standby generator from Generac. They're the best in the industry. I understand you at Generator Supercenter are the nation's #1 Generac generator dealer. Can you give me $2,500 off and give me a high quality generator? And they'll say, yes, we can, because that's the offer right now throughout the month of July. So financing is available. Call Generator Supercenter of St. Louis at 314-499-2020. The website, generatorsupercenterofstlouis.com. They have an outlet out in the Chesterfield Airport Road area if you want to swing in. But look, the bottom line here is you don't want to put this to chance. You know the power grid's going to eventually fail. Give yourself peace of mind. Don't make the mistake and be the person that says, gosh, I wish I would have called and gotten a generator, especially when you get $2,500 off. Generator Supercenter of St. Louis.com.
For the last 33 years.